the main sanctuary part while the choir is singing. Are you?
Our Father which art in heaven,
Our Father which art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name.
hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come,
Thy kingdom come,
thy will be done in earth
thy will be done in earth
as it is in heaven.
as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread,
Give us this day our daily bread,
and forgive us our debts
and forgive us our debt
as we forgive our debtors.
as we forgive our debtors.
Lead us not into temptation,
And lead us not into temptation,
but deliver us from evil.
but deliver us from evil.
For thine is the kingdom,
For thine is the kingdom,
and the power,
and the power,
and the glory,
and the glory,
forever.
forever.
In Jesus' name we pray.
In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Amen.
Today's scripture comes from Romans chapter 3, verses 1. It says, what advantage then hath the Jew, or what profit is there of circumcision? Much every way, chiefly because that unto them were committed the oracles of God. Today's scripture reading came from Romans chapter 3, verses 1 and 2. May the Lord add a blessing to the hearing and doing of his word. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Quiet.
Happy Sabbath, everybody.
rain from heaven above with wind. Some power and love, our God is awesome. Emotions make you glorious. Love make you victorious. You took away the fear in us. We pray that you can deliver us. There ain't no stopping us. No, there ain't no blocking us. Come on and clap your hands up.
Like this, y'all. Like that, y'all.
It's an awesome mighty rain from heaven above with wind. Some power and love, our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome mighty rain from heaven above with wind. Some power and love, our God is an awesome God. Emotions get so glorious, the love make you victorious. You took away the fear in us. We pray to you can deliver us. There ain't no stopping us. No. There ain't no blocking us. No. Somebody clap your hands up.
Like this, y'all. Like that, y'all.
Our God is an awesome mighty rain from heaven above with wind. Some power and love. Our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome mighty rain from heaven above with wind. Some power and love. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns. He reigns.
Y'all sound good right here.
He reigns.
Come on.
He reigns. He reigns.
One more time. One more time.
He reigns.
Let the world know.
He reigns.
Come on, break it down. Hey, clap your hands, everybody. Everybody just clap your hands. Hey, clap your hands. Come on, just clap your hands. If you love God, clap your hands. If you love God, clap your hands. If you love God, clap your hands. Come on, what do you do?
He reigns. He reigns.
Come on.
He reigns.
Come on.
Forever and ever. He reigns.
Come on, one more time.
He reigns.
Let the world know.
He reigns.
I like it. Come on.
He reigns.
That's right.
He reigns.
That's right.
He reigns.
Come on. Forever and ever.
Our God is an awesome God. He reigns. Forever love with grace. Some power and love. Our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns. Forever love with grace. Some power and love. Our God is an awesome God.
All right, put on right on PG. Here we go. Right on, ready? 1, 2, 3. Right on. Right on.
Right on. Right on, King Jesus. No man cannot hinder thee. Right on, King Jesus. No man cannot hinder thee. No man cannot hinder thee.
Hey.
Right on, King Jesus. No man cannot hinder thee. Right on, King Jesus. Right on. No man cannot hinder thee. 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 In that time of great sorrow, lead the way. Lead the way. In that time of great sorrow, lead the way. Lead the way. In that time of great sorrow, lead the way. Lead the way. In that time of great sorrow, lead the way. Lead the way. In that time of great sorrow, lead the way. Lead the way. In that time of great sorrow, lead the way. Lead the way. Pray to get this Zion, Lord, save my soul. No man cannot hinder thee. Pray to get this Zion, Lord, save my soul. No man cannot hinder thee. Wanna walk all over the streets of gold. No man cannot hinder thee. Wanna walk all over the streets of gold. No man cannot hinder thee. Wanna see King Jesus sitting on the throne. No man cannot hinder thee. Wanna see King Jesus sitting on the throne. No man cannot hinder thee. No man.
God before you, who can be against you? What?
No man.
There is no God like our God. What?
No man.
He's our king. He's our priest.
No man cannot hinder thee. No man cannot hinder thee. Ooh, 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 yeah. Ooh, ah, 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 hey, hey,
Come on.
hey,
That's right.
hey, 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 hey,
I don't think you. Listen, ready?
hey,
Right on.
right on, King Jesus.
Hallelujah.
I'm just joking. Nah, that's beautiful, dog.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord. Thank you, brother. I don't know. Well, we'll figure that out. We got a fairly big one today. You can kind of see, looking at your lesson, but it's honestly not as long as it appears on paper. We get to using the map there. I guess y'all gonna be lost because we ain't sharing. But at any rate, definitely a probably, but I don't know, probably maybe two more. So today, as always, it's a pleasure to stand before you. Unfortunately, we weren't able to broadcast on Thy Kingdom Come, but due to some technical difficulties, but we will get it rolling on YouTube. Today's lesson will be Hebrew Israelite, race or religion. A lot of people be trying to feel like the Hebrew Israelite. No, trying to go to the office and grab me another notebook that looked like this. I left it in there. A lot of people feel like Hebrew Israelites, you know, when you say it, it's a race, like I mean, it's a religion. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I'm a Hebrew Israelite, and that's my religion or something. But the reality is, if we begin to, as we begin to discuss the Bible and look at the Bible, we're going to see that Hebrew Israelite are two terms that have been merged to create whatever it was made to create. That's what really, it serves whatever purpose it needs to serve. And something that I've definitely learned is that we have to be all things to all people. So sometimes some people ask me, especially when I deal with, let's say I might talk to a Muslim, or I may talk to a one of the Egyptologists or whatever, and they start saying, "So what's your religion?" You know what I tell them? I'd be like, well, I'm a Hebrew Israelite. That's what I tell them then. Sometimes I'm talking to the genre or Christian there, or like when I'm on my job. Yesterday I had to fill out a demographic piece of paperwork, and they asked me on this paperwork where I was from. I mean, what's my religion? And when I filled out this piece of paper, I put Christian on there. Okay, so that they could identify as well, because we learn in the world we need to be all things to all people. Now, this is Black History Month. We know that. Unfortunately, they give us 28 days. Most times, I tend to do a class or two on history of Israel or something to that effect, and then I kind of keep it moving. And I mainly deal with us being Israel more around the tabernacle time period, to be honest with you, because in my mind, it's more fitting. But at any rate, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take us a nice little lesson here. We're going to deal with some history, some archaeology, some some geography. We're gonna try to learn a little bit today. So we're gonna go ahead and get started, and we're gonna pick this up first at Genesis chapter 6 and verse 6. And I know that some people didn't do that well in social studies, so I took the time and took the liberty to try to get us some maps and some things so that we'll be able to identify and pinpoint the things that we're reading in the Bible. What I want us to understand and know, most important, is that the Bible is an authentic, true book. The Bible is going to show us that mankind started in the Fertile Crescent region, and we're going to learn in the scriptures that it started in the Fertile Crescent region. We're going to see all these types of things. So we're going to go ahead and get it going. Genesis chapter 6, and we're going to start at Genesis 6 and verse 6. Genesis chapter 6 and verse 6. And when you get there, go ahead and read.
And it repented the Lord that he made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart.
All right, so where we going with this right now, where we starting this at, is we're starting with Noah and his time period. So, many of us know Adam and Eve, they were the first two, man and woman. We could even go and show that everybody comes from the blood of Eve. We can go in the book of Acts and show that, okay? But here we jump from Adam, and we're going to run all the way down to Noah. So God, looking on the earth during the time of Noah, he said, and it repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him in his heart. Go ahead.
And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it repented me that I have made them.
Go ahead.
But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man and perfect in his generation.
Keep going.
And Noah walked with God. And Noah begat 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
Okay, so as we first thing we're gonna pay note to is that we starting here with Noah, and what we're gonna find out is Noah started the whole world over. So everybody comes from Noah, and it says here that Noah had 3 sons. It said Noah had Shem, Ham, and Japheth. These are the 3 sons. And I'm not even gonna act like I can spell Japheth's name, so we're just gonna abbreviate it. He won't mind. He's not alive. Go ahead, keep reading.
Verse 11. The earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence.
So as we got to the time period with Noah, it's saying that the earth was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence during Noah's time period. So when you begin to understand the time where Noah is, and hopefully at some point we'll have some charts available so you can see. But we're talking about 2,000 years that mankind has been on the earth. Mankind, the world is tripping when Noah is here. See, so when we say about 2,000 years, if you understand, Adam lived to be 900 and something years old. So now we getting into Noah's day. So man done been here, about 1,500 years or so. All right. So we done got real wicked. And it's a lot of people here. I mean, it's a whole lot of people. Adam and Eve was told to replenish the earth, and they went to work. They did that. All right, go ahead.
Verse 12. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt.
Go ahead.
For all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. And God said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me,
Uh-huh.
for the earth is filled with violence through them. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth.
Keep reading.
Make thee an ark of gopher wood. Room shalt thou make in the ark, and shalt pitch in within. And shall pitch it within all with pitch.
All right. So now what we about to do is we about to begin Noah's Ark. All right. Now, well, go ahead. Keep reading. We're gonna take this down to verse 19.
15.
Thank you.
And this is the fashion which thou shalt make it of.
Uh-huh.
The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits.
Uh-huh.
The breadth of it 50 cubits.
Go ahead.
And the height of it 30 cubits.
Uh-huh.
And windows shalt thou make to the ark, and in a cubit shalt thou finish it above. And the door of the ark shalt thou set. And the door of the ark shalt thou set it in the side thereof.
Uh-huh.
With lower, second, and third stories shalt thou make it.
Keep reading.
And behold, I, even I, do bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh.
All right. So the Lord is saying He's gonna bring water floods to destroy everything, all the flesh. Keep going.
Wherein is the breath of life from under heaven, and everything that is in the earth shall die.
Uh-huh.
But with thee will I establish my covenant, and thou shalt come into the ark, thou and thy sons, and thy wife, and thy sons' wives with thee, and of every living thing of all flesh, two of every sort, shalt thou bring into the ark, to keep them alive with thee. They shall be male and female.
All right. So what we got so far is we got the story of Noah and his ark. Okay. And Noah, this is basically gonna save mankind's existence. So you had Noah, his wife, then we had Shem, Ham, and Japheth and their wives. So we had 8 souls that are saved on the actual ark. Now we know other religions or other nations have begun to adopt this story, because we're reading this from the Bible, and this story that we're reading from the Bible is actually told to Moses. So it's not like when this happened to Noah that somebody went down and jotted like, okay, so Noah about to go on the ark, and then somebody found those notes or something. The story is even being told thousands of years after it had taken place. Okay, so now the Lord is telling Moses, and telling Moses what took place during this time period with Noah. Now, here's the thing though, because this story, if you look in other writings, for example, the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is from the Mesopotamia area. And when I say Mesopotamia area, we're going to kind of look and see where that area is at some point. But they picked up this story as well as other cultures. I got here written on my notes, Sumerians. They got an epic of Zayastra or some dude. And basically, these are all Noah-type figures in their mythology. But what I want us to gather and understand, because when we get out here in the world and you begin to study things, they're going to try to tell you, oh, well, that Noah story, other nations have adopted it. Well, I want you to think of something. Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and we're going to learn this today, are the sons of Noah. They all 4 of these people was on the ark. We're going to see that they had sons. Now, look, if I'm 100 years old and I'm on the ark and I'm still alive and I make it from one end of the flood to another, I'm going to tell my sons. Same thing that happened with these nations. They just told their sons what happened. So Shem told his sons, Ham told his sons, Japheth told his sons. It's the same story. Oh, well, how come the names don't match up? It's not really relevant. Maybe the name got changed. Let's try. If I told Stan something and Stan told Nikki, by the time it came all the way around and back over here, we probably gonna have the names changed, the verbs changed, and the nouns. So yeah, I can understand that maybe some of these names changed, but the fact still remains that there was some type of flood that wiped out all mankind. And as we're reading, it covered the earth, and if it wasn't for you being on the ark, you would not have survived. So there goes that, some of them stories that they be trying to make it seem like. I seen one Noah Ark film when they had, it seemed like Sodom and Gomorrah was getting destroyed during it. Like, nah, y'all way y'all. And then another one, they had seemed like somebody jumped on the ark with Noah, and this all this kind of dumb stuff. Yeah, but if you go in the Bible, say 8 souls were saved. That's Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Noah and his 3 sons. So these 3 people start what we know as the modern day world. Okay, so that's why we don't deal with these other books like Enoch and all that type of stuff, because these people preceded or are before Noah, and we're gonna learn some more things about what happened before Noah. Okay, so let's go down to Genesis chapter 10. Now, this chapter here is what we like to call the Table of Nations, and what we're going to do now is we're off the ark, and we're going to begin to show you each one of these people's children and who they are. Okay, so go ahead and read.
Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem,
Uh-huh.
Ham, and Japheth.
Go ahead.
And unto them were sons born after the flood. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshach, and Tyrus. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Riphath, and Togarmah. And the sons of Javan, Elisha, and Tarshish, Kittim, and Dodim. By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after their tongue, after their families, in their nations.
All right, so now what we're going to do, and I took the liberty to begin to write some of these people down. So Japheth, as it says here, says that he went, it says here, verse 5, that these are the Gentiles. See that verse 5? Read that 5 again.
By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands.
All right, so when it said isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, what it's saying is that they went, wherever they went. These were their islands, okay? Now, here goes some of the Gentile nations. So Japheth equals Gentile, all right? So, like, what happens is, through the course of time, some people going to try to tell you that Gentiles are just nations. And in some instance, you can look at it that way. But originally, the Gentile is a group of people. And these people include, for under Gomer, it was your Gomer, because we was reading the sons, right? And wasn't Gomer one of the sons?
Yeah.
All right, so Gomer, as one of the sons, he your Welsh people. And I guess your Welsh people, I guess. And then also your northern Germanic tribes. All right, this is who Japheth is, Gomer. Then and your Celts, these are the different people. Your Turks. All right. Then we had here Javan, he was there. So read it again. Start at verse 1 and read it again.
Now these are the nations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were sons born after the flood.
Go ahead.
The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog.
So now we got Japheth up here, his sons, and we said Gomer. So that's what we looked at first. So when we start talking about Gomer, who we talking about is his children ended up being the Northern Europeans. Okay. All right. And then what else did it say?
And Magog.
Magog. Now I didn't put Magog up here, but I have him on here. And the reason I didn't, because he was long and I got. So we're going to say Magog, according to this here, and it say the Goths. And it's another reason I ain't put it up here. The Scandinavians. And the reason I'm suspect about who they saying Magog is because when we get into the end of the book, which we'll do later, not today, Magog turns out to be basically your Russians, and your Gog and Magog end up being Russia and China. So when they start saying who they want to say under here, and this is what, because you got to understand, according to the historians, we Hamites. And we're going to learn today that we're not Ham. But so I'm saying we can't trust everything that they tell us. So we're going to just take this off. We're not even going to put that up there. And we're going to put what we know. So we know this to be Russia. And that's what we're going to put them up there. Forget them. We teach them. They don't teach us. So these are your Gentile nations. But what I want you to understand and begin to learn about your Gentile nations, that these people are Caucasian. For example, also, who's not on here, but we can, I'm sure, find them. But your Asians, your Indians, All these, your Mexicans, all these are your Gentiles. Okay, and I don't, people try to say, well, the Mexicans, they Israel. No, the people that's telling you that are lying. Mexicans get here just like the Eskimo got here, and they continue to travel looking for food. They began to travel south, and it went from being from an Eskimo to being a Native American to eventually being a Mexican. And what I mean by that is these are all names we gave to people. You know what I'm saying? Like they had whatever name they wanted to have, whatever name they called themselves. But as they migrated, aka chasing the buffalo, they adapted to the landscape that they were on. And then as we get into Central America, and why do they speak Spanish, not Asian? Is because when the Spaniard comes to America, he comes to Middle America or Central America, and basically you have our Central America is a mix between the Asian and the European. So the Western European. So I'm gonna show you that up here so you can kind of get a grasp of what we're talking about here. So this is a world map, and I'm just letting y'all know that I am not rushing today. We ain't even started at 12 o'clock, but I'm not rushing because it's a lot of information to grasp, and I want to make sure that we get it. So here is Egypt. I'm gonna do this a lot. Here is Egypt. I know some of y'all can't see it. Some of you I can see the map without looking at the map. So some people might have an idea of what the world map look like. So at any rate, here is Egypt. This is what we would call the Middle East. Y'all brothers all right? Oh, okay, that's okay. This is what we would call the Middle East right here. Okay. Now, what we were talking, here's America as we know. So what we were discussing about how the Mexican and the Indian and all that got here is because the Eskimo is up here. Some kind of way they travel from Russia. Here's Russia. And they travel, and we go into Alaska, but this is a flat map. So they got to draw it a certain type of way. So Alaska is actually on both sides. Okay. And they come down and they come this way. This is America, Canada, so on and so forth. Now, the European comes this way. And here is where they met. And this is where you get your Mexicans and so on and so forth, your Guatemalans, whatever. And if you talk to one of their historians, they will explain to you that they are a cross between the Spaniards and the Indians. They understand this. It's us that don't really know nothing. So this is so far what we got coming off this map. So let's go. I'm gonna put this because we're gonna turn the board around so we can get it from that way. So let's go on over and let's look at the rest of the sons of Noah. So where are we? We should be at
Genesis 8.
Oh, okay. Okay, we can do that. Let's go to Genesis chapter 8 now. We're gonna come back. Genesis chapter 8, and let's pick it up in verse 1. Genesis 8 and 1. Oh, I knew my Bible. Genesis 8 and 1. When you get there, go ahead.
And God remembered Noah and every living thing and all the cattle that was with him in the ark. And God made a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters assuaged. The fountains also of the deep and the windows of heaven were stopped, and the rain from heaven was restrained.
Go ahead.
And the waters returned from off the earth continually. And after the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated.
Keep reading.
And the ark rested in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, upon the mountains of Ararat.
All right. So the reason we pulled this here, you good? Oh, okay. I'll take care of that. But y'all that's gonna bother me. So yep. So what we gonna do here is we looking at, now I printed on the piece of paper Mount Ararat. So if you look at your one with your 4 maps, all right. Like I said, we're gonna learn some geography today. So we're gonna digest a lot, but it's not that complicated, and I'm gonna try to help you the best I can to understand where we're going with this. Okay. So if you look on your printout, you have what's on here is Mount Ararat. Now the reason we here is when Noah had the flood, hopefully y'all can see it from here. Because really, I care more about y'all than the video, to be honest. So when Noah had the flood, he had to land his boat somewhere. If you look on the second diagram from the top to the left where it says Mount Ararat, what you're going to see is it says Turkey, Babylon. You see Israel on there. And unfortunately, it went from color to black and white. But if you look to the over there to the right by the Caspian Sea, you'll see Mount Ararat. You'll see the Black Sea. You'll see the Mediterranean Sea. So those are your three seas. So what we're doing now is I'm going to take the real map and I'm going to show you on the real map where it is so you can kind of see. Here's Egypt again. North of Egypt is the Mediterranean. Then as you begin to travel eastward, you'll see on your piece of paper, you'll see Israel. Israel is here. Then above Israel, directly above it is Turkey. You'll see that. That's your Black Sea. And to the right is your Caspian Sea. So Mount Ararat sits over here somewhere near the Iran area. Okay. That's what we was over there fighting. They still consider that the Middle East. Okay. So when you start thinking about, well, what does this matter today? So Mount Ararat, which sits over here near this Iran area, Iran-Turkey area, this is where we be fighting at. That's what's most important about knowing any of that information, okay? But again, I'm just trying to show you, Egypt is here. Everybody know where Africa is, right? Does anybody in the room not know where Africa is when they look on the map? Hello? Everybody got, okay, I just want to make sure. And Egypt is where I like to use this because this is one of the most popular places, that we can identify with. And it's your gateway to get you to the Middle East. Because that's how we got to the Middle East. Now, the reason that we went from Genesis chapter 10 over to chapter 8 is mankind started in what's known as the Fertile Crescent region. All right. If you look on your map again, if you move up a little bit to the top map, you'll see Fertile Crescent. And what you will see is two rivers on this map. So if you're looking at the map from the left, you see Asia Minor, then you see the word Fertile Crescent, and then you see two rivers called Tigris and Euphrates. So according to the scientists, according to the archaeologists, the geologists, whatever they are, they say that that's where mankind started. So mankind started somewhere over here. Funny thing about it is that's where mankind gonna end too. Now, when we look at where Mount Ararat is, it's sitting right north of what's the Tigris Euphrates River. They call that region the Fertile Crescent because the land there is very fertile due to these waters that's running through there. See, all civilization need water to survive on. Just like if you look in America, they built cities running up and down that Mississippi River. You see, because you needed water to survive on. Just like this city, this landmass over here, we built off of the Atlantic Ocean. And we got a whole group of cities coming off the coast. Okay, well, mankind started in that Fertile Crescent area between two rivers called the Tigris and Euphrates River. Y'all might remember that in school because they did teach us that. Well, we find these things in the Bible. We're going to find some more. So let's go over here to back to Genesis 10, I think. Yeah, back to Genesis 10. Okay, so I showed you the Gentile, remember? And I showed you that the Gentile, y'all got to take your time with me. This is my first time teaching this particular lesson. So, it'll be better the next time. So the Gentile, remember, it said that everybody went their way. Okay, so pick it up at Genesis 10 and verse 5. And it's a reason because the last thing the brother Ira and brother Art was passing out is something that I want to add to this that I meant to put here. And I'm sorry that the quality is not the greatest, but we'll work on that as we proceed in the future. But go ahead and start it at verse 5, Genesis 10 and 5.
By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after their tongue, after their families, in their nations.
All right, so they went. Everybody went to their land, their families, their tongues, their nations. Okay, now continue to read. Go down into verse 6.
And the sons of Ham,
Mhm.
Cush, and Mizraim. And
Now Ham got sons now that we see in here. And his sons are Cush, and Cush is the Ethiopian. All right. Now you can do this homework on your own. I tried to make it easy for you. I guess what I should have did was printed this out too, but I didn't want us to be sitting here with 50,000 pieces of paper. Sometimes you got to do your own work. But Cush is Ethiopian. So the Ethiopians are Cush. So we're gonna write that up here. All right, keep going.
And Mizraim.
Mizraim is your Egyptian. All right, and we could go into the Bible. We're not gonna do that today, but we could go into the Bible in Genesis chapter 51, and you can see where the Egyptians and the Israelites were together, and how all of a sudden they made a statement about the Egyptians being something Mizraim, because that's who they are. The Egyptians are Mizraim. So as we go through Ham and we look here, I'm sorry. All right, and that's your Egyptian. And what else we got on there? Keep going.
And Put.
And
Canaan.
All right, now Foot is supposed to be your Libyans or Libya. All right, and we'll look at the map in a minute. Libya. All right, now Canaan, the reason we got Canaan on here is because as you read the Bible, you're going to see Canaan had land and Canaan got kicked out of his land. We took his land. So Jesus, the Lord, when he's giving this story to Moses, he's showing them. He like, look, and Canaan come from Ham too. Are y'all following me? Okay. All right. So Noah got 3 sons. We see Noah's son Japheth, and these people are what we call the Gentile, and we see some of the people are the Welsh, the northern Germanic tribes, so on and so forth. Javan, they your Greeks. Tarshish, they your Romans. And then we know that Gog and Magog is your Russians. Now I put Asians, Indians, and Mexicans up here because because these are the ones we deal with them more than we deal with any of that. To be honest with you, it's Asians over here, it's Indians over here, it's Mexicans over here, and they're Gentiles. Plus, there's a rumor and a lie that they Israel, and that's just not true. I'm sorry. Now, as we go to Ham, Ham has sons: Cush, which is the Ethiopian; Mizraim, which is the Egyptians; Foot, which is Libya. So as we go back to our map, sorry y'all, but we're gonna make it through this. As we go back to our map, now, when we was looking at the Gentile, if you paid any attention, and I know that everybody can't see, I'm so sorry, but I will tell you this: if you can't see, you got a phone, just type of world map in there, and you'll be right with me. Okay. So anyway, when we was looking at this, we saw when we started naming the Gentile kids, they were up here. We said Germany, we said stuff like Greece, Rome. They were north of the Fertile Crescent area. Now, as we begin to discuss Ham's children, we said Libya, there go Libya, there go Egypt, there go Ethiopia, and they began to go south of the Fertile Crescent area. Now, as when we were reading here, at verse 5, it said, by these were the isles of the Gentiles, divided in their land, everyone after his tongue. So what we're getting at is we're getting how everybody went where they went on the map. You have to understand today's lesson is called Hebrew Israelite. So what I'm doing is I am walking you from Noah to the Hebrew Israelite so that you can follow where you are. See, this class really was inspired because my wife said to my daughter, did you tell them who you was? And I thought about something. I'm like, but what does that mean? Like, you're going to say you're a Hebrew Israelite, but what does that mean? Like, it's not about who you are. It's really about what you do. You know, but I understood where she was coming from, which we're going to learn today, because technically the two supposed to go hand in hand. Hebrew Israelites as a nation supposed to have a religion of such. Okay, so that's what we're going to learn today. So what I'm trying to do is get us to the Hebrew Israelite. And we ain't got there yet. So, but now when you look on this map, well, no, let's read first, and then we'll look at this table of nation map. So let's go back to Ham. We're going to Genesis 10 and verse 8. And when you get there, go ahead.
And Cush begot Nimrod.
Now, Nimrod is known as in history, but obviously, and pay this some attention, obviously, the Lord gave some type of respect or some type of honor or whatever you want to call it to Nimrod, because this is God telling Moses about it. So he's saying this. Go ahead.
And Cush,
Yeah,
verse
start
8.
at 8, yeah.
And Cush begot Nimrod.
Uh-huh.
He began to be a mighty one in the earth.
So the Lord telling Moses, like, that boy Nimrod, like Cush had him, and he was a goon. This is the Lord talking to Moses now. See, this is the beauty of this story to me, is that it's coming from God. But go ahead, keep reading.
He was a mighty hunter before the Lord.
So he was like, bro, he was the coldest one. Like, so Moses come back, yo, Nimrod was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Keep going.
Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord, and the beginning of his kingdom was.
Dude was such a mighty hunter that he ended up having a kingdom. See, I learned something from this, that when you start talking about rulership, the initial basis was survival. Who gonna help us? Who gonna allow us to survive better? Nimrod was a mighty hunter, so therefore it was like, bam, we'll follow him because he gonna make sure we eat. He gonna make sure that everybody's supplied for. So he got a kingdom, the first kingdom we read about. Now I'm gonna tell you another kingdom that's very relevant in our history books is Hammurabi. But I want you to understand and gather something. Notice that, I slipped my map, bro. Notice that Hammurabi's name starts off H-A-M, just like a son of Noah, Ham, because he's an Hamite. These two people, Nimrod and Hammurabi, are basically what we know as Babylon and its origin. And now watch this as we read the scriptures. So the first Babylonians were black people. They were Hamites. All right, go ahead and read that, bro. Keep reading start at 8 again.
And Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh, in the land of Shinar. Okay, so we done picked up some new places here. So we're going back to our map page. And our map page, we got some of these things over here so that when you got to them, you would know what I was trying to get you to do. Now, the bottom map, what that is a map just of this whole Mediterranean area. All right. So that way you can kind of get an idea of where we are. When we start talking Mediterranean, we north of Africa again. Okay. Now, it said here that my man he had Shinar, which is Babylon. So if you look and Nineveh. So let's look at the very top map, and you will see inside the Euphrates Tigris area, you will see a place called Nineveh. As you travel down the Euphrates River, you will begin to run up on what's called Babylon. Now, Babylon is actually Shinar, and don't tell me I slipped and didn't put that on here nowhere. None of my maps. Let's see. Oh, okay. Well, let's turn the page. Let's go on the backside. Thank you very much. So as we go on the backside, it says land of Shinar. That's what this land is considered. You see Nineveh up there below Nimrod's name. Assyria, land of Shinar, and there's also something else on here that we're going to come back to a little later, and that's the land of Ur. You go all the way down to the bottom, you'll see Ur. And if you go to the far left, you see things like Jerusalem, Sidon, Damascus. These are other places in the scriptures that you can identify with. All right. So when we look at on this map here, and it's telling us that all this stuff, Shinar, Babylon, all this stuff, it's in the Fertile Crescent region. So everything took place right up in here to start with. Okay, right here in the middle of the earth. Okay. Now, it said that everybody, when you read at verse, and let's skip down real quick to verse 20. We're just going to skip down to verse 20. I want you to read that. Go ahead. These are the sons of Ham, after their families, after their tongues, in their countries, and in their nations, unto Shem also, the father.
No, that's good. Okay. So we got all these people, and they're all being divided at some point, and we're going to look at that point by their tongues, by their lands. Now, And we the way Genesis 10 is written is almost a little confusing because the reality is Genesis 11 fits inside of Genesis 10. Because what Genesis 11 does is show you the exact point where they were all divided to go wherever they had to go in this region. Whereas Genesis 10 is showing you the whole genealogy after they even got divided. Does that make sense? So whereas Nimrod got divided during this time period, but still we go past it, but then we're going to come back to revisit the time when they were divided and how that all took place. Now, on this last map that we picked up, it has on here, if you look at it, it has Ham, Shem, and Europe. And what I'm just trying to show you here, as we begin to discuss where everybody went, is that Ham went south, the European went north, and Shem stayed in the middle of the three sons of Noah. All right. Now, on that other page, though, the one that you turn to the back to, and it said the kingdom of Nimrod, I copied something out of the Zondervan Bible Compact Dictionary. All right. And just a Bible dictionary, try to help you define the things that you read in the Bible. And it's a good book to own. I think this one probably costs $10. But you know how it goes. You go on Amazon or something, you might find it for $3. They just be giving away info. So I'm here on the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary, and I'm looking up the term Ham on page 213, and I want you to read Ham to them. And you can just start at the very beginning where it say Ham. Ham. That's what you're looking at.
The youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years after the flood, and one of the 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races.
Go ahead.
Not the Negroes.
All right. So pay attention. Read that part one more time. He became the progenitor or the starter of the dark races, but who?
Not the Negroes.
But not the Negro. So now when we look at the Japheth and we start saying, well, what color are the Germans, y'all? Let's just use Caucasian. But yeah, but I mean, and the reason I say let's just use Caucasian, because I ain't never seen no person live this color. You know what I'm saying? So we just use the word Caucasian. So the Celts, they Caucasians. The Greeks, what about them? You consider them Caucasian? Right. Then, on the other flip, we got the Asians. You know what I'm saying? Which is they're a darker shade of that. Because what we're going to learn here is that each one of these people, Ham, Shem, and Japheth's children, vary in shade. Just like when you look at in this room, we predominantly Israelites, but we vary in shade. We ain't all pitch black, and we ain't all light skinned either. Like we vary. Well, all these sons do that. Ham does it too. Like when you go look at the Ethiopian and the Egyptian, he pretty fair complected. But it's interesting complexion, but pretty fair. Whereas once you start looking at the Nigerian and so on and so forth, they begin to be a little darker complexion. Okay, I think Dikembe Mutombo used to play here. He's a Hamite. He's a darker complexion than your Ethiopian. Well, Shem is doing the same thing. And when I say Shem is doing the same thing, we're going to now begin to pick up our third son of Noah. All right, and that's Shem. All right, so we're going to skip down. We don't have to read all that. We're going to skip down to verse 21. Genesis 10 and verse 21. We're going to skip down there and pick it up from there. When you get there, go ahead.
Unto Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth, the elder, even to him were children born.
Now, I tend to believe this, but it doesn't matter. We will find where Hebrew comes from in the Bible. But I notice here that it says Shem, also the father of all the children of Eber. They say that the term Eber is where the term Hebrew came from. That's what they say. But it doesn't matter. We will find the first person that we can identify as Hebrew. But we will put one of the sons of Shem as Eber. Go ahead, keep reading.
22. The children of Shem, Elam, and Ashur, and Arphaxad, and Lud, and Aram. And the children of Aram, Uz, and Hul, and Gether, and Mash, and Arphaxad begot Selah, Selah begot Eber. And unto
we see where Eber is. That's why, it's like all of a sudden unto Shem, also the father of all the children of Eber. But then it go back up to from Shem down, and then all of a sudden it hit Eber. Are y'all following where we're getting at? So it must be some reason that it's doing that. Like I say, in theory, if we look up definitions of words, Hebrew and Hebrew share a definition. But I'm not saying we're going to find Hebrew and the first Hebrew in the Bible. That's what's most relevant. Okay? So he says here, the children of Shem, Elam, Asher, Arphaxad, and Lud, and Aram. And the children of Aram, Uz, and Hud, and Gether, and Mash. And Arphaxad begat Selah, and Selah begat Eber. What about Eber? Go ahead.
And unto Eber were born 2 sons. The name of one, Peleg. For in his days was the earth divided.
Now, when it says in his days were the earth divided, some people be thinking that the earth used to be connected and it was divided out. No, in Eber's day was the Tower of Babel. That's where the division of the languages came from. We'll see that in a minute. And that's why I think he is the first Hebrew based off of that part. But maybe he wasn't Hebrew yet. Maybe it became Hebrew as a generation or two later. I don't know. You know, but don't worry, we're gonna get enough that we're gonna be able to understand Hebrew Israelite race or religion. That's what today is about. We're gonna get enough for that. All right. What verse are we at, bro?
25.
Verse 25. We don't have to read. Let's just jump down to 31. And go ahead.
These are the sons of Shem, after their families, after their tongues, and their lands, after their nations. These are the families of the sons of Noah, after their generations, in their nations, and by these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood.
Okay, so again, we see in here, so they were divided in the earth after the flood. So after the flood, this was that division that we were under Eber. Now we're gonna get more clarity into Shem very shortly. But remember, we saw here Ham was the progenitor of the dark race, but not the Negro. So technically, we ain't found a black man nowhere up here yet, because we ain't put him up here. All right. But he do go up here somewhere, but not under Ham and not under Japheth either. So technically, so really, it ain't but one left. Okay, but we're gonna run him down because he the one that actually matters. So let's go to Genesis chapter 11. Let's pick him up at verse 1. Y'all still with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Go ahead.
And the whole earth was one language and of one speech.
Okay, so what time period are we now? We're up above Eber if we were under Shem. If we were in Ham's time period, we somewhere probably above Nimrod or near Nimrod's day or something. You follow what we're getting at? We jumping back up in time to identify when each one of these people began to split and go their own way. Because when we read it, each one, the Gentile went according to their tongue, Ham went according to their tongue, and Shem went according to their tongue. So I'm trying to show you now where did their tongues get, because the reality is when Noah got on the ark, he was able to talk to each one of his kids in Noah's language, and they all understood. Now, when you begin to hold a conversation, and you, like when I'm at work and there's 2 Mexicans there, I'd be pissed off. Because they be holding a conversation, and I'm like, dang, this ain't fair. I don't know what the heck they saying, and I know they understand me. This ain't right. Because they could be sitting here. I know, man, sometimes I know they be talking about me too. Right. That's the beauty of like mixing up all the languages and when this took place. So let's go ahead and let's pick it up, Genesis 11, and let's rock and roll with it. When you get there, go ahead. 11:1.
And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar.
So we back at Shinar again. So again, the historians, they're not lying to you. Mankind started up in that Middle Eastern area where we saw Nineveh, where we saw Shinar in the Fertile Crescent. That's where mankind started. And funny thing about it, it's where it's going to finish too. But that's another story. Go ahead.
And they dwelt there. Verse 3. And they said one to another, go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar.
Go ahead.
They said,
keep reading.
And they said, go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach into heaven. And let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth.
So what man doing right now is we like, look here, we gonna build us a city so we can get all the way up to heaven. Now, it's okay that we got these skyscrapers and stuff now. But the thing is, if we are 4,000 years ago and we building buildings taking you up into the heavens, where do you think we would be now? So God say, hold on, let me slow this down. Just like he slowed everything down with the flood initially. Let me slow y'all down here. Go ahead, keep reading.
Verse 6. And the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and they have one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language.
So notice in verse 6 he said, and the people they won, and they got one language, and this they began to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them. So as you look at mankind, he said, whatever mankind tries to do, ain't no stopping it. So that's why, although I ain't never left this earth atmosphere personally, I don't plan on doing it. But I have to agree. They say they done went out, they got satellites out there, they got shuttles going on. I'm not gonna argue with them. Nothing that they imagined to do. Because here's my one theory on that. If they hadn't done it, then they would be trying to. Because it's all on the TV that we imagine to do it. All the television shows put you out in space. And you mean to tell me that we ain't trying to get there because we ain't been there? See, I'm not buying that. Man don't think like that. Man continues to progress. That's why now the cars look way better now. They got computer screens all, and they have, look, your 64 Impala did not have no computer in there. You see, now we don't need, we got GPS and all this kind of, like this stuff new, y'all, computers. We got phones. Man keeps moving. He said nothing that man imagines to do will be restrained from them. Believe that, y'all. If you don't believe nothing else, that's why we have open heart surgery now, brain surgeries. They cloning animals. Can't reproduce life though, not without active intercourse. You understand? It can't create like God did, because it's one thing we ain't, and we ain't God, not on that level. All right. So at any rate, the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do, and nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined in their minds to do. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So he said, we're going to confuse them so they can't operate and work properly together. Go ahead, keep reading.
So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city.
Right. So they stopped doing this in Babylon. They was building this city, and I'm telling you, it's not about the city. It's about the mentality of what the people were capable of doing, working together. They were going to surpass. Like now, just think, we back being one now, meaning we can now understand each other throughout the world. And like, look at the advancements we done picked up over the last 20, 30 years. I mean, it used to be that for you to go to the mall was an all-day thing. I'm talking about, right, see, this sister here, no, because when her parents would take her to the mall, they had to come to town, and they planned to be there the whole day. You know, now y'all go to Amazon. You ain't even left the house now. You know what I mean? Like, because we done moved so quick. You used to cook a meal all day long. Nah, we just put it in the microwave. 1 minute on it. That's how long my lunch costs, lasts, by the way. I got my lunch is 1 minute. I be steak, mashed potatoes, all type in a minute. So I mean, I'm just saying what we getting at with this. As we became one, we start moving super fast. Don't y'all be saying it? Man, it's like time just flying by. Like, I mean, but don't it? Like, y'all realize that we are in the second month of 2018 already. I'm still remembering when it turned to 2000. I'm for real. When we was ducking, you remember, Raquel? We was ducking because they was out there shooting, and we thought everything was just gonna blank out. The computers was going Y2K, right? Right. I still remember that. I'm just saying, time moving because we move. All right. So what verse are we at? Did we read 9?
No.
All right, go ahead, read 9.
Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth.
Go ahead.
And from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth.
Now, Babylon actually means confusion, to confuse. And that's what happened at Babylon in Eber's day. Okay? everybody went their own way, and based off our little map that we had where we showed to the south went Ham, to the north went the Gentile, and Shem stayed in the middle. Now we hadn't covered Shem's kids quite yet, so let's begin to do so. Let's go ahead and move over to
Verse 10.
verse 10. Go ahead.
These are the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old and begot Arphaxad 2 years after the flood. And Shem lived after he begot Arphaxad 500 years and begot sons and daughters.
Go ahead.
And Arphaxad lived 5 and 30 years and begat Selah.
So at 35 years old, he had Selah. Go ahead.
And Arphaxad.
And this is why I don't trip about birthdays either. You notice that from the beginning of the time, the Lord was keeping up with how old these people were. Because that's who's telling us the ages right here. Go ahead, keep going.
In our verse 13, and Arphaxad lived after he begot Selah 403 years and begot sons and daughters.
Go ahead.
And Selah lived 30 years and begot Eber. And Selah lived after he begot Eber 403 years.
And Eber is when the Tower of Babel took place. All right, so we're going to skip down. I ain't going to make them read all of it. Let's skip down to verse 25. So these are all Shem's sons. Go ahead.
And Nahor lived after he begot Terah 119 years and begot sons and daughters. And Terah lived 70 years and begot Abram, Norah, and Haran.
Go ahead, keep going.
Now these are the generations of Terah. Terah begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran. And Haran begot Lot. And Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his nativity, in Ur of the Chaldees. And Abram and Nahor took them wives. The name of Abram's wives was Sarah.
Okay, so that's good. We'll stop there. So what we do peep out in the Shem line is that we got Abram. How do you spell Abram? That's a good question.
Abram.
Okay, so we got Abram. He come out of Shem's line. Okay. All right, so now let's go ahead. We're gonna get the ball rolling, and we probably done with most of these little maps here. So, hopefully we got the geography aspect out of it. I just want to show you where all this stuff was taking place so that it seems real and or familiar to you. So when you see all that stuff that's going down in the Middle East, really right north of all that, when you start hearing the terms like Damascus and stuff like that, if you went north of that, that's where civilization started. Y'all remember what was my dude name? Saddam Hussein? He was in Babylon. That's where he was ruling from. See, he understood that the Middle East is where you want to rule the world from, not Europe. But that's another story, though. That's why when we start talking about the Antichrist and what he wants Jerusalem because that's the center of the world. And you can rule the world from there. And we also know that to be the city of the great king. And that great king is Jesus. But let's go ahead. Let's get back to our lesson at hand. Genesis chapter 12 now. And we're going to pick it up in verse 1. Genesis 12 and 1. So what we did so far now is we went to Shem to Abram. Go ahead.
Now the Lord had said unto Abram, get thee out of the country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land that I will shew thee.
So if I'm not mistaken, Abram was in the land of Ur. Okay, and Ur is on one of your maps, and he's saying, get up out of there. I got something else for you to do. Go ahead.
And I will make of thee a great nation.
And he's telling him, I will make you a great nation, Abram. Go ahead.
And I will bless thee and make thy name great.
So remember now, we covered Japheth and his sons and some of their nations, and we covered Ham and some of their nations, but we got the Shem, and the only names we really was able to pull out of there was Eber and Abram thus far. But now we're seeing that with Abram, he's going to make Abram a great nation. Okay, so Abram is going to have some name behind him. Okay, keep reading.
And thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed.
So now he's saying that in Abram, all these other families of the earth are going to be blessed. Through Abram, this dude here, Ham going to be blessed. Japheth going to be blessed. All the families of the earth. Okay. What verse are we at?
That was it.
Okay, let's go to Genesis chapter 14 now. Genesis chapter 14 and verse 13. And we're going to catch this one here. So go ahead and read that one verse.
And there came out one that had escaped and told Abram the Hebrew, for he.
So notice here, it just called Abram the Hebrew now. Okay, this is who Abram is. He is now the Hebrew. So we're going to once again flip our board over. Yeah, and then we're going to get rid of this. That's what we're going to do for that. We're going to lose this for now. And we're going to put, now Abram is now, because he came from Shem, but Abram, is now called the Hebrew. Okay, keep reading. Or I think we're going somewhere else now. Let's go to Genesis chapter 17. So now we got to find out, we got to look at something else that's very important. So Abram is the Hebrew, and we got to look at something very important for Abram. Genesis chapter 17, let's pick it up at verse 1. And when you get there, go ahead and read.
And when Abram was 90 years old and 9, the Lord appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am the Almighty God. Walk before me and be thou perfect. And I will make my covenant between me and thee, and will multiply thee exceedingly.
So what we got going on right now is God is talking to this guy Abram, and he's saying, look, if you walk a certain type of way, then I'm going to make a covenant, an agreement, a league, or a pact with you. This is God now. He's saying, I'm going to work with you. Now, remember we read that a couple of chapters over, through this guy was all the other nations going to be blessed. This is the beginning of the actions of the blessing. All right. So what we're going to see here is that Abram got the covenant. All right. And we're just going to put C-O-V-N. That's how we're going to write. Go ahead.
Verse 3.
And
Abram fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, As for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many nations. Neither shall thy name any more be called Abram, but thy name shall be Abraham.
All right. What verse are you at?
Verse 5.
Okay, yeah, okay, I see that. All right, so now we see here that this Abram guy is really who we also know as Abraham. All right. Father Abraham, who got many sons. Keep reading though.
For a father of many nations have I made thee. And I will make thee, I will make thee exceeding fruitful, and I will make nations of thee.
So he's telling Abraham, I'm gonna make a whole bunch of nations of you. Whereas when we read before, we saw Cain, Ham, and Japheth, and we saw Mizraim was a nation of Egypt. We saw, but here Abraham, when we was at Shem, he gonna be a father of many nations. Keep going.
And kings shall come out of thee.
Kings gonna come out of Abraham. Go ahead.
And I will establish my covenant between me and thee.
And he's saying again that covenant is gonna be between me and you. All right, go ahead.
And thy seed after thee in their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be a God unto thee and to thy seed after thee.
That is very key. He just told Abraham, the Hebrew, that he's going to make a covenant and he's going to be God unto him. Read that part again. God unto him.
God unto thee.
No, start that verse.
Okay. And I will establish my covenant between me and thee and thy seed after thee in their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be a God unto thee.
And the reason this is so important, brothers and sisters, is because as we begin to discuss whether we're talking about race or religion, what I want you to understand is that God ain't never tell nobody else that he was going to be God unto them. See, he didn't tell Japheth that. He didn't tell Ham that. So since he didn't tell these people that, you can't go get your religion from them. And what has happened is that's what we've done. The things that we deal with, Christmas, Easter, these come from the winter solstice. They come from Estara. They come from Mithra. They come from Ham and Japheth. But he said, I'm going to be a God unto you. So what I'm trying to get you to understand is when you begin to discuss Hebrew Israelite, and we argued it, it is both race and religion. When you take it to the core of what it's supposed to be. It's what you are, but what you are is supposed to be somebody who done made a covenant with God. But let's keep moving on. We're going to keep learning as we discuss this matter. What verse are we at?
The end of 7.
The end of, keep going in.
and to thy seed after thee.
Uh-huh.
Verse 8.
Mhm.
And I will give unto thee and to thy seed after thee the land wherein thou art a stranger, all the land of Canaan.
Now, see, we didn't really read Canaan, but Canaan was a son of Ham. And Canaan had some land where actually Jerusalem sat. And he was telling Abraham, like, look here, I'm going to give you their land. And I'm going to give your seed that land, not them. Go ahead, keep going.
For an everlasting possession, and I will be their
And
God.
he made another statement, for an everlasting possession. So how long is you supposed to possess something if I say this is an everlasting possession for you? Forever. So he's talking to him, making a covenant with with the Hebrew Abraham for an everlasting time period. That is crucial, brothers and sisters, because as we begin to learn, we are the descendants of Abraham, and we are in an everlasting covenant with God.
That's right.
But go ahead, keep reading.
Verse 9.
Uh-huh.
And God said unto Abraham, thou shalt keep my covenant, therefore, thou and thy seed after thee in their generations.
Mhm.
This is my covenant, which ye shall keep between me and you and thy seed after thee. Every man child among you shall be circumcised.
So here's something else we picking up now. Where you picking up? What verse are you at?
Verse 10.
Okay, thank you. So another thing we picking up as a token or as a ring, as we might like to say, of this covenant is what we call the circumcision. All right. So they said you're gonna be circumcised. So that's what we're right here. Yeah. So this is another part. The circumcision was given to Abraham. Back here, we was in what? Genesis 17 as part of the covenant. Meaning when we making a covenant, like what do we do when we make covenants, y'all? What do we do?
Make an agreement.
But what do we do though? When we make that deal, what do we do? There we go. We sign it. Right. If my signature ain't on this deal, it means nothing. Well, this is what he's saying here. If you ain't circumcised, then none of this means nothing that I just told you. This is your ring. This is your signature. This is your validation, your stamp to say, I agree to this covenant. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Right, but what we do understand is that this requirement goes to the nation, though. For example, as a woman, you gonna make sure my child is circumcised on the 8th day if it's a boy. This nation gets circumcised. When we checking this nation, we checking them in. You're like, okay, well, what is it? Your mama didn't get, look at Moses and his wife. Did his wife walk up on him like a bloody husband are to me? You ain't circumcised my boy. We supposed to be a part of this covenant. So you're absolutely right. It does apply to the men, but look though, we a family though. You know what I'm saying? It's man and woman, because I ain't birthing none of them. You see, so that is a true statement though. But again, this circumcision is an indication or a signature for this nation, because we can't have a nation without men. So for this nation, that they are the nation of this covenant, they are all men of circumcision. Okay, keep going.
Verse 11.
And
ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant betwixt me and you.
Right.
And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you. Every man child in your generations.
Go ahead.
He that is born in the house or bought with money, or any stranger which is not of thy seed.
See, and I like that, because what he's saying is, look here, I don't care who it is. If you done went and brought a stranger up in here, he got to take hold of this with y'all. Otherwise, he ain't no good up in here. He a plague up in here. So go ahead, make sure he gets circumcised too.
Yes,
that's a whole lot for a grown man, but Abraham had to do it, so much respect. Keep going though.
Verse 13, he that is born in thy house and he that is brought with thy money must needs be circumcised. And my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. And the uncircumcised man child whose flesh of his foreskin is not circumcised, that soul shall be cut off from his people. He have broken my covenant.
Right. So, and see, what you got to understand when you start talking about cutting the soul off from the Lord's people, you cutting off families in such cases, because the male carry the seed. So we can wipe this family out if his son ain't circumcised, and especially if this is his only son. And now he ain't a part of this covenant. He ain't a part of this. He ain't a part of this nation. All right. But let's move over to chapter 16 now. So we're gonna pick up one of Abraham's first sons. All right, because he a part of the Hebrew lineage too. Because Abram is the first Hebrew that we ever saw. All right. Now we're gonna pick up Abraham's first, or Abram. I like calling him Abram in this case, his first son. Okay, because Abraham's son is Isaac, but that's another story. So we're gonna get there shortly. But let's go ahead, Genesis 16, and let's pick them up at verse 10. When you get there, Genesis 16 and 10. When you get there, go ahead and read.
And the angel of the Lord said unto her, I will multiply thy seed exceedingly, that it shall not be numbered for multitude. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Behold, thou art with child. And
so the angel's talking to actually a handmaid of Sarah's. Her name was Hagar. She was an Egyptian. Okay, keep going though.
And shall bear a son, and shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord have heard thy affliction, and he will be a wild man. His hand will be against every man.
So now we starting to learn about the son of Abraham, his first child that he had, Ishmael. And it says here that Ishmael is a wild man. His hand will be against every man. So keep reading though. What verse are you at?
The middle of 12.
Finish that up.
And every man's hand against him, and he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren. And she called the name of the Lord that spake unto her, Thou God seest me.
Okay, that's good. Okay. So now what I did was, because I always wanted to be sure, is I always make the statement that Ishmael is the Arab. Okay, and basically he's your father of your Islam. Okay, so what I did was simply went to Wikipedia, and I couldn't make everybody a copy, but I went to Wikipedia and I looked up Ishmael. And I'm gonna share with you a few things out of the encyclopedia. That's all Wikipedia is an encyclopedia online of what they have in here under Ishmael. Now, when you look under his descents, it actually puts on here, after roaming the wilderness for some time, Ishmael and his mother settled in the desert of Paran, where he became an expert in archery. Eventually, his mother found him a wife from the land of Egypt. They had 12 sons who became the tribal chiefs throughout the region from Havilah to Shur, from Assyria to the borders of Egypt. His sons were, now as we begin to describe his sons, it gives you one son, Adbel. He was an established tribe in northwest Arabia. Gives you another one of his sons, Massa, father of the nomadic tribes that inhabited the Arabian desert toward the Babylon. So what you're starting to see is that Ishmael's sons began to be what we in the Arabian region. Okay. Now, as we continue through Ishmael on the encyclopedia, I went to a spot called pre-Islamic Arabia. Some pre-Islamic poetry mentioned Ishmael, his father Abraham, and the sacrifice story, such as the pre-Islamic poet, whatever his name is, who said one of his poems, whatever, of his firstborn whose separation he could not bear, neither could he see him surrounded in foes. But then it says Zayamari was another pre-Islamic figure who refused idolatry and preached monotheism, claiming it was originally believed that their Arab's father was Ishmael. So he's telling you, like, this is what the historians are saying, is that this is what the Arabs are understanding, that their father is Ishmael. Also, some of the tribes of Central West Arabia call themselves the people of Abraham, an offspring of Ishmael, as evidenced by a common opening of speeches arguing this of reconciliation between rival tribes in that area. So as you go through the historical element of Ishmael, and again, I can show you this more. I'm going to read you something here from under their Islam. It says, Ishmael is recognized as an important prophet and patriarch of Islam. Muslims believe that Ishmael was the firstborn of Abraham, born to him from his second wife Hagar. Ishmael is recognized by Muslims as the ancestor of several prominent Arab tribes and being the forefather of Muhammad. Muslims also believe that Muhammad was a descendant of Ishmael that will establish a great nation as promised by God in the Old Testament. Now we read about this great nation that God was going to do, and he said through this nation will all nations be blessed. So after we done read all that, the first nation that we pick up here is Ishmael. What is it? Mael, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, man, look, I don't even care. Okay, but he Hebrew though. All right. I just want you to know that. He is Hebrew as well. And he is the father of the Arabs. All right. This is who Ishmael is, father of the Arabs. Okay. And he's one of Abraham's sons. This is where your Muslim faith comes from. This is why your Muslims are over there in the land of Jerusalem right now trying to say it's theirs. Because they trying to say that Abraham, their daddy, this land was promised to him, so give me. And I don't blame them. Okay? But it don't work like that. Because the promise was not just made to Abraham, but it was made to Abraham and Sarah. All right. Let's move over here to Genesis chapter 25 now. Genesis 25. He's Hebrew. Ishmael is Hebrew and the father of the Arabs. So he is Hebrew. Ishmael is Hebrew. Abraham is Hebrew. We saw that. Ishmael is Hebrew. Remember, today's class is called Hebrew Israelite, race or religion. Okay? So we got to run down this Hebrew, you know what I'm saying, and make sure so that we establish who they are. Okay? So now we're going to go over here to Genesis 25, and we're going to pick them up at verse 19. Genesis chapter 25 and verse 19. When you get there, go ahead and read.
These are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begat Isaac. And Isaac.
So now Abraham had another son, though. So we got Ishmael over here, but then Abraham had another son, and his name was Isaac. All right. So Isaac would be Hebrew as well. And Isaac did what again? Go ahead.
And Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian of Pandaranium.
Yeah, that's cool.
The sister to Laban, the Syrian. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren. And the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived. And the children struggled together within her, and she said, if it be so.
So Isaac's wife got two children in her. It's twins in her. And y'all be careful, sisters, praying to the Lord for babies, because you can go from 0 to 6 real quick.
Yes,
sir. Brother JD. Keep reading. Just keep reading.
Why am I thus? And she went to inquire the Lord, and the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb.
So now we see here that inside of Isaac's wife, Rebekah, she got 2 nations in her womb. So we went from Abraham, and now we really skipping Ishmael. We saw Ishmael. It stopped right there at the Arabs. All right. But now we moving further because we got to find where God kept his word with. All right. So we're going from Abraham to Isaac, because I'm going to give you a definition of religion so you can get this real quick. Religion. A definition of religion: service and worship of God or the supernatural. That's what it is. So we need to find out the God of Abraham. Well, we need to find the God of this Bible, who he kept giving his service to, kept giving his command to. All right. So what verse are we at?
23.
2 nations, it said, right? You said 20 what?
23.
23. Okay. The Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. The one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. Go ahead.
And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red, all over like a hairy garment.
Go ahead.
And they called his name Esau.
So one of them came out and said he was red, and they called his name Esau. Go ahead.
And after that came his brother out.
And then his brother came out. And what was his brother's name?
And his hand took hold
on.
I'm
sorry, I guess it didn't say. Keep reading.
And his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob.
Okay, go ahead.
And Isaac was and Isaac was 80 old when she bare them.
All right, so we got Abraham to Isaac, and then Isaac had two nations, Esau and Jacob. Okay, so let's move on a little further to chapter 26. Genesis chapter 26. We're going to just go ahead and keep moving right along there. And when you get there, go ahead. Verse 1. Yep.
And there was a famine in the land beside the first famine that was in the days of Abram.
Uh-huh.
And Isaac went unto Abimelech, king of the Philistines, unto Gerar.
Yeah, go ahead. That's cool.
And the Lord appeared unto him and said,
so the Lord is appearing to Isaac. So, I mean, again, this is something you got to grasp with this, that the Lord is dealing with a particular family in their bloodline. All right, go ahead.
Go not down into Egypt, dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and will bless thee, for unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham thy father.
So he's telling them now. He's like, you remember I had went into an oath, or we saw a covenant. But he was like, I went into an oath with Abraham, your father. He said, well, now I'm going to deal with you, Isaac. Okay, so we seeing where it's not Ishmael, it's Isaac who he dealing with. All right, go ahead, keep reading.
Verse 4.
Uh-huh.
And I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven.
That's the same thing he was rocking with Abraham. He's like, I'm gonna multiply your seed. Remember, he told Abraham, through your seed will all the world be blessed. Go ahead.
And will give unto thy seed all these countries, and in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws.
All the way back then, he telling Abraham, the reason it's going down like this is because you did what I told you to do. Now, it said two nations was in the womb of Rebekah. Let's go to Revelation chapter 2. Revelation chapter 2. We're going to just add this in here, and then we're going to jump back over to Exodus. Revelation chapter 2, and we're going to look at verse 9 here. We're going to show you this statement that's written in the Bible some years later, some 1,000 years later. Because what has happened is, and we're not getting too much into this today, but the identity of this man here at this present point has been mysteriously wiped away from the face of the earth. But I'm going to tell you, because we've been telling all these other nations who they were, I'm going to tell you who Jacob is. Jacob is, well, remember we was reading about Ham and it said not the Negro? Mm-hmm. How about we just use the word the Negro? We done found him. We find him in Jacob. So we'll say the Negro, since they use not the Negro, trying to be politically correct, I guess. The Negro. And this guy here, Esau, you know who he is? He is what the world likes to call the Jew. Right, but see, I can't give him that title. So what I'm going to call him is the fake Jew. That's what I'm going to call him. He can still take the Jew part, so you know, but he's the fake Jew. All right? Fake Jew. That's who this guy is. All right? Go ahead and read that Revelation 2 and 9.
I know thy works.
So he's talking to a church of Israel, really. And he says, I know your works. What else he tell them?
And tribulation and poverty. But thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan.
And see, not only did we just call them the fake Jews, but then I turn around and show you that there is somebody out here who's saying they're the Jew and are not, but really are the synagogue of Satan. You know, like synagogue. Who y'all identify with synagogue?
Church.
The Jews. That's what we call the synagogue. Well, when I grew up, we didn't call my church no synagogue. We went to church. Right, that's what we went to church. But when you start talking about the synagogue, if you was talking about the mosque, you would be talking about Muslims, right? When you start talking about the synagogue, you're talking about the Jews. Then he said they synagogues of Satan. Somebody who imposter or impersonating the true Israelite or the true Jacob, Hebrew Jacobs. That's what we got so far. We ain't really got Israelites. Not yet. I don't know how I managed to not put that in here. That was supposed to be in here. Let's go get that real quick. Let's go over here to Genesis. Chapter 30 something. I'm gonna tell you where we're going real quick. Genesis chapter maybe 32. Yeah, Genesis chapter 32. I don't know how I managed to not put this in here. Genesis chapter 32. And we're going to find where Jacob's name got turned to Israel. So let's pick it up at verse. I don't want to make us read all this. And he took them over. Let me go. Okay. All right. So let's start at verse 26. No, let's start at verse 24. Yeah, let's start at 24. Genesis 32 and 24. When you get there, go ahead.
And Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day.
Uh-huh.
And when he saw,
So Jacob was wrestling with somebody. Jacob is this guy here, the son of Isaac, and he's saying he wrestled with him to basically the break of day. Go ahead.
verse 25.
Uh-huh.
And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint as he wrestled with him.
So obviously this man, he couldn't handle Jacob, which I found, Jacob must have had some skills. Because the reality is he wrestling with an angel. That's what's cold about this. And Jacob actually not getting beat by it. So the angel snatches out a piece of his thigh. Oh, that had to hurt. But go ahead, keep reading.
26.
Uh-huh.
And he said, let me go, for they breaketh. And he said, I will not let thee go, except thou bless me.
So Jacob, like, I ain't letting you go nowhere unless you gonna give me a blessing. Keep reading.
And he said unto him, what is thy name?
Uh-huh.
And he said, Jacob.
Uh-huh.
And he said, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel.
So here we go. We got Israel introduced to the scene. So now we see that Jacob is also the Israel or Israel. So making Jacob the first of the Hebrew Israelites is Jacob. He the first one. Okay. Go ahead. Keep reading.
For as a prince has for as a prince has thou power with God and with men.
And it's saying that when you Israel has power with God and with men. See, so that means, and it's amazing too, because when you really look at Israel, that's what we do have. We got power with man and with God. I'm gonna let you figure that one out on your own. So let's go over here to Exodus now. I think we're going to Exodus chapter 1. Yeah, Exodus chapter 1. And we moving, but I ain't cutting. And we're gonna get through it. And we taking intermission. Oh, heck nah. We ain't even got to 2 o'clock yet. Oh man, y'all good. Y'all just look like y'all tired. We good. We moved through that first half pretty quick.
Yes, sir.
Exodus chapter 1. And we're gonna pick it up at verse 10. All right, and we're gonna find the families of Abraham, Isaac, and then Jacob. We're gonna find where they at now. So let's pick it up at verse 1. When you get there, go ahead.
Verse 1 of 10.
Exodus. Exodus chapter 1, verse 1. Okay. Yeah.
Now these are the names of the children of Israel.
Y'all know who Israel is, right? Do y'all?
Yes.
That's Jacob. Right. So sometimes we can call him Israel, sometimes we call him Jacob. Go ahead.
Which came into Egypt. Every man and his household came with Jacob.
Uh-huh.
Reuben.
So now he about to start naming his sons. Reuben, go ahead.
Simeon,
Uh-huh.
Levi,
Uh-huh.
and Judah.
Judah. I'm gonna write his name up here because actually his name will be relevant later. Go ahead.
Issachar,
Uh-huh.
Zebulun,
Uh-huh.
and Benjamin.
That's right.
Dan,
Keep going.
Naphtali,
Uh-huh.
Gad,
Uh-huh.
and Asher.
Uh-huh.
And all the souls that came out the loins of Jacob were 70 souls. For Joseph was in Egypt already.
All right, so now what we got going on is the children of Israel, they went down into Egypt. It was a famine in the land. Jacob had 12 sons, but really Joseph was already in Egypt because his brothers didn't like him because the father favored Joseph. So they sold him into a slavery, and while in slavery, he came up. They make little movies and cartoons and everything, but he came up, he interpreted some dreams, found favor with the Pharaoh. So since he found favor with Pharaoh, he saved the people there so that they could eat. He made him like third in charge or something of his nation, or second in charge. I don't know. You have to go read the story on your own. So now that he became that powered up, Joseph, while he down in Egypt, now all of a sudden Jacob need help because it's a famine throughout the land. So Jacob goes like, hey, we're going down to Egypt. Well, it just so happened that's where Joseph at. And when they get there, bam, Joseph recognizes his brothers, and now all of a sudden they end up getting reunited. You know, that's the short version of the long story. So now they down in Egypt, and they say, now these are the names of the children of Israel, or the names of the children of Jacob, which came into Egypt. Every man in his household came with Jacob. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher. All the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls, for Joseph was already there. And Joseph died and all his brothers in that generation. So that generation died out. Go ahead, verse 7.
And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly.
Go ahead.
And multiplied and waxed exceedingly mighty. And the land was filled with them. Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land.
So they worried about this. They saying, look, okay, these people done came here, they done grew, they done got big. We having problems with them. They done grew into a mighty nation, which was really prophesied. We saw before. So he said, look here, I don't know nothing about what happened before, but we need to do something about this. So they began to conspire to kill us, to kill our little boys. Okay, but you can read that story on your own. What I wanted to show you is that the children of Israel went down into Egypt, and there we stayed. And the greatest thing I love about it is that the Lord strategically made sure that we stayed a nation there by doing the same thing he did now, put us in captivity. See, if you give us freedom, then we wander the earth and do whatever the heck we're going to do, and we never maintain the bond that we need to become a great nation. So he say, look, I'm going to make y'all a nation, but I ain't tell you what cost it was. You got to go down here and be in bondage. And we was in heavy bondage. And if you let me tell it, we probably the ones that built the pyramids and the sphinxes and all that stuff that Egypt got that they can't figure out how it was built. Because I'm still trying to figure out how you make straw without brick. I'm learning now, but I'm trying to figure out how the heck you do that. Or how you make brick without straw, excuse me. But I'm figuring it out, though, believe it or not. But I can't believe that was easy. You see, but this was the bondage that we was into while we were down in Egypt. Now let's jump over to Exodus chapter 19, because as we know and as we learn, every year in the next couple of months will be Passover time period. And we watch television, and every year we see Charles Heston delivering the children of Israel out of Egypt. Or every week my kids watch the cartoon and they show you the Prince of Egypt. That's what they call it there. Well, Moses delivered the children of Israel. This is known throughout the planet. Whether the world want to believe it or not, I don't even see how they can argue it, but it's known throughout the planet. Whether the world want to believe it or not, it happened. Moses went through, 10 plagues came into Egypt, and the children of Israel were delivered out of this bondage as a complete nation. Now let's learn what is told to the children of Israel from their God. Exodus chapter 19, let's pick it up at verse 1 and verse 1. Yeah, 19, chapter 19, verse 1. You get there, go ahead.
In the third month, when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt, the same day came they into the wilderness of Sinai, for they were departed from Rephidim, and were come to the desert of Sinai, and had pitched in the wilderness. And there Israel camped before the mount.
Go ahead.
And Moses went up.
So Moses is leading the people. Okay, they go down. The leader of the children of Israel, when they went down into Egypt, basically was Jacob. He told them to go. They followed his instruction. His 12 sons followed his instruction. When they got there, they were 70 deep because his sons had sons. He had 12 sons and they had children. So they got down there 70 deep. Now, on their way out, Moses is ahead of them now. Actually, Moses comes from the son Levi. All right. He's running the show. So it said in the third month, when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt, the same day came they into the wilderness of Sinai. For they were departed from Rephidim and were come to the desert of Sinai, had pitched in the wilderness, and there Israel camped before the mount. And Moses went up unto God. Go ahead.
And the Lord called unto him out of the mountain, saying,
Mhm.
Thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel.
You see how this is interchanged when he's talking to the Hebrew Israelite, Moses? He's saying, tell Jacob or Israel, because it's the same thing. Go ahead.
Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians,
Uh-huh.
and how I bare you on eagle's wings,
Go ahead.
and brought you unto myself.
Uh-huh.
Now therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant.
Same covenant he was talking about he made with Abraham. Say, if you obey my voice and keep my covenant, go ahead.
Then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine.
He said, the earth is mine, and you'll be a peculiar treasure. People gonna look at you if you could keep my covenant like you something special. Go ahead.
And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests.
Now notice what he's telling Jacob. He's saying, Jacob, you're going to be a kingdom of priests. Go ahead.
And an holy nation.
And a holy nation. So this was told to Jacob. Go ahead.
These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel.
Mhm.
And Moses came and called for the elders of the people, and laid before their faces all these words which the Lord commanded him.
That's cool. So we see here that this people here, remember he told Abraham, you was going to bless all the world. So now we go from Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Jacob is told to his sons that you are going to be a priest and a holy nation. So he's basically saying you're the church, but we're going to get there in a minute. Let's go to Psalms 105 now. I think that's where we're going. Let me see. I'm looking on my, yeah, Psalm 105. Psalms 105. Psalms 105. So he's telling the Hebrew Israelites that y'all gonna be priests and a holy nation. That's why I really found it comical when I made this post on Facebook, Hebrew Israelites, race or religion, that I was getting arguments facing both sides. Well, no, it's a nation. They're blind to this, or well, it's a, I didn't really get too much religion. But I laughed because I realized people don't even know what religion is. And it's funny, the reason they don't know what religion is because of religion. You know what I'm saying? Like, because we think religion is being religious, and religion is just your way of serving God. That's all it is. And we'll see by the time we're done what pure religion is. It's in the Bible. The Bible speaks about religion, and it even speaks about the Hebrew Israelites' religion. See, because what happens is inside this culture of people, we like to say that this person here know better than this person, who know better than this person, instead of saying who's teaching the book anyway. So what we begin to do is divide ourselves inside this community of people into religious sects. That's what we end up doing. But the reality is, as a nation, it's said here, we are a holy nation. That sounds like a religion to me. It do. It said you are a nation of priests. That sounds like a religion to me, even though it's still a nation. But let's keep it moving though. Psalm 105. So you could answer the question and say, yes, I am an Israelite. That is my religion, if that's what you choose to do. Again, like I say, I learned to be all things to all people. I'm going to call what's necessary. But go ahead. Psalms 105, verse 1.
Oh, give thanks unto the Lord. Call upon his name. Make known his deeds among the people. Sing unto him. Sing psalms unto him. Talk ye of all his wondrous works. Glory ye in his holy name. Let the heart of them rejoice that seek the Lord. Seek the Lord and his strength. Seek his face evermore.
Keep reading.
Remember his marvelous works that he have done, his wonders and the judgments of his mouth. O ye seed of Abraham, his servant.
Notice what he's saying to the seed of Abraham. He said, you're my servant. You work for me. That's what a servant is. Go ahead.
Ye children of Jacob, his chosen.
And notice what he's calling the children. He said, I chose the children of Jacob, not the children of Ishmael, not the children of Esau, not the children of Ham or Japheth. We've learned all these children today. Go ahead.
He is the Lord our God. His judgments are in all the earth.
Go ahead.
He hath remembered his covenant forever, the word which he commanded to 1,000 generations, which covenant he made with Abraham.
So he made that covenant with Abraham. We saw that. Go ahead.
And his oath unto Isaac.
He kept it as an oath unto Isaac. Go ahead. Isaac over here. Go ahead.
And confirmed the same unto Jacob for a law.
And he confirmed it for a law to Jacob. This is who the Lord was dealing with. Go ahead.
To Israel for an everlasting covenant.
He said that's forever. And what did he tell him? Verse 11.
Saying, unto thee will I give the land of Canaan, the lot of your inheritance.
See, that's what people missing. When you see what that covenant is, and he said it's an everlasting covenant, and the children of Jacob, why they ain't there now? The land of Canaan is a big piece of land. It ain't just one city. That's what Jerusalem is. Jerusalem is a city. The land was all that was their land. Why ain't they there now, though? Forget if it's us or not. You know, I told the Negro, forget if it's how come the fake Jew ain't all over there? Why is they over there bucking with these people, with the Arabs about the land? And the Gentile over there, all them over there. Anyway. Right, but he said for an everlasting possession. That's because this stuff here is still in play. The moves are still being made to get it to Jacob's children. This is where the kingdom of God is going to be, brothers and sisters, in the land of Canaan. That's where Jerusalem is. That's the relevance to all this. Let's move on over to Acts chapter 7. Oh, no, let's keep reading. I didn't know I had it down to 15. Yeah, let's keep reading.
Verse 12. When they were but a few men in number, yea, very few, and strangers in it.
Go ahead.
When they went from one nation to another, from one kingdom to another people, he suffered no man to do them wrong. Yea, he reproved kings for their sakes.
So what he's telling you here is I made sure that nobody could wipe out this nation of people. I made sure of that. Because if it was up to the people, your captors, they would have been wiped you out. They still be trying to wipe us out. They're trying so many ways now. Now they're doing it psychologically. They either throw us in prison or, have us running behind some other boy. So that's how you wipe out the nation. Now they ain't trying to too much kill us. No. Go ahead, keep reading.
15. Saying, touch not mine anointed.
So he said he suffered no man to do them no wrong. Yea, he reproved kings for their sake, saying, touch not mine anointed. The Lord has separated the children of Israel from all other nations. That's what the anointing means. Go ahead.
And do my prophets no harm.
And he said, don't hurt my prophets. We're going to keep them around. Let's go to Acts chapter 7 now. Acts chapter 7. Again, we are learning the lesson, and hopefully we're getting it, of Hebrew Israelite race or religion. And what I want you to gather from this is it's not even relevant whether you want to call it a race or religion. Yeah, it's a nation. A nation of what? Kings and priests. That's what religion is. Oh, well, I don't want to get titles and all that. Titles is for identification purpose. Your name is a title that identifies you. What are you? You see, like, what is you? Oh, well, I'm just a Christian. Well, that's a title. Somebody gave you that. But if we can prove to many of you, that you are a Hebrew Israelite. That is a title, absolutely. Identifying you with Abraham to Jacob. That's what that is. And you're supposed to live a certain type of way with it. That's the key. Is you really living like them boys, or is you living like, Japheth or Ham, or Ishmael or Esau? You living like somebody else. Because most times we are. Acts chapter 7, let's pick it up at verse 15. When you get there, let's go.
So Jacob went down into Egypt and died, he and our fathers, and were carried over into Shechem, and laid in the sepulchre that Abraham brought for a sum of money of the sons of Immer, the father of Shechem.
Go ahead.
Shechem. But when the time of the promise drew nigh, which God had sworn to Abraham, the people grew and multiplied in Egypt.
Keep going.
Till another king arose, which knew not Joseph. The same dealt subtly, right? With our kindred, and evil entreated our fathers, so that they cast out their young children, to the end they might not live. in which time Moses was born and was exceeding fair and nourished up in his father's house 3 months.
Go ahead.
And when he was cast out, Pharaoh's daughter took him up and nourished him for her own son. And Moses was learned in all the wisdom of Egypt.
Let's skip down to 29. So we just kind of recapped it a little bit of how Abraham, Isaac got down and how we got to Moses. But let's go to verse 29. Go ahead.
Then fled Moses at this saying, and was a stranger in the land of Midian.
So Moses left Egypt and became a stranger down in Midian. Go ahead.
Where he begot 2 sons. And when 40 years were expired, there appeared to him in the wilderness of Mount Sinai an angel of the Lord in a flame of fire in the bush. When Moses saw it, he wondered at the sight. And as he drew near to behold it, the voice of the Lord came unto him, saying, I am the God of thy fathers, the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Then Moses trembled and durst not behold. Then said the Lord to him, put off thy shoes from thy feet, for the place where thou standest is holy ground.
Go ahead.
I have seen the affliction of my people, which is in Egypt, and I have heard their groaning, and am come down to deliver them. And now come, I will send thee into Egypt.
Keep going.
This Moses whom they refused, saying, who made thee a ruler and a judge? The same did God send to be a ruler and a deliverer by the hand of the angel which appeared to him in the bush.
Keep going.
He brought them out after that he had shewed wonders and signs in the land of Egypt and in the Red Sea and in the wilderness 40 years.
Keep going.
This is that Moses which said unto the children of Israel, a prophet shall the Lord your God raise up unto you of your brethren like unto me. Him shall ye hear.
Go ahead.
This is he that was in the church in the wilderness.
All right, slow down. So we just read the recap of the story about how we got basically from Moses. We took it into the wilderness. And then notice here, Moses, we could say, is the first, and we'll write it up here. Moses, we could say, is like the first of our preachers. All right. And Moses, like, you know how the Catholics got the Pope. You know what I'm saying? Well, really what we got is priest. And we can say that Moses really is our first priest as a nation. All right. And then, of course, he gives the priesthood from the Lord over to Aaron and his sons. But that's another story. But in this thing, verse 38, it says, this was he that was talking about Moses was in the church. So notice here, the church started with Moses, and he was basically our first priest or advocate down there. Okay, that's why it was like a prophet like unto Jesus, because Jesus is the high priest, and Moses is similar to that. Jesus is king, and Moses was similar to that too. He the one that led this nation up out of Egypt. Okay, so at any rate, but notice what it said in verse 38. This is he that was in the church in the wilderness with the angels which spake to him. Go ahead.
In Mount Sinai, and with our fathers who received the lively oracles.
And notice also it said that he gave him the lively oracles, or basically he gave them the words of God or the law. Gave it to this people. Gave it to the children of Israel and their priest Moses at the church down in the wilderness. So again, that's why we say when we start discussing Hebrew Israelite, is it a race or religion? Think about what's going on. This race of people was given a religion. They were given a lively oracles. They were given a priesthood. They had all type of stuff, man. They did sacrifices on a yearly basis. Nobody else. As a matter of fact, let's go to Psalm 147. Nobody else was given this type of stuff. So when you start talking about religion, you need to get it from the Hebrew Israelite. So it is really both. It is a nationality, and you can be a Hebrew Israelite by race or a nationality. You can be a Hebrew Israelite by religion. You can be them both. Just be it. That's what I say. Just be it, and don't be it on just the Sabbath. I can't stand that. Jake's turned Hebrews When the Sabbath comes, they be on Facebook, Hebrewed out. All through the rest of the week, I don't know what the heck you was doing. You know what I'm saying? You was at work doing God knows what, going to the bars and the strip clubs and whatever else crap with them. But then here come Friday night, I'm Hebrewed out now. Like, don't play yourself, and definitely don't play with God.
That's right.
Psalm 147, and let's pick this up at verse 18, I think I want. Yeah, we're going to send it out to 18. We're going to start at 18, not 19. When you get there, go ahead.
He sendeth out his word and melteth them. He causeth his wind to blow and the waters flow.
Go ahead.
He sheweth his word unto Jacob.
He said he showed his word unto Jacob, talking about God does. Go ahead.
His statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He have not dealt so with any nation.
Right. So forget the fact that Ishmael is trying to say that they got God.
Yes, sir.
And that they running around here talking about Allah. They wrong. He said, I ain't never dealt with no other nation. I walked this covenant down with you guys to show you that it came to Moses, that it skipped Esau, the fake Jew. And it skipped this guy here. Now, as a matter of fact, you turn to Genesis chapter 22 in the Bible, and it's talking about Isaac, and he talking to Abraham, the Lord talking to Abraham, and he say, Isaac, thy son, thine only son. He just called this dude. Like, I ain't even recognizing that. If we go into other places in the scriptures, he say, bro, this was the child that was born out of force. You made this one. I promised you this one. So he's saying, look, it's running through this way. Okay, so now he said, I never dealt with any other nation. Now let's go with Romans chapter 9 now. Romans chapter 9. We tighten it up. We getting it down to the end. Because it's not a whole lot. Really more of today's class in honor of Black history, I should say. We're showing you how we went from Abraham to the Jew. You know, or as my teacher would like to say, from Adam to the Jew. I really just kind of combine lessons to make one, just to showing you who the real church of God is. And it is the Hebrew Israelite, no other people. What God gave them the Sabbath day to don't eat swine, to honor your mother and father, to don't kill, so on and so forth. That is the religion that is supposed to be extended out to the whole world. So let's go to Romans chapter 9, and let's pick this up at verse 4. And anybody know me know this is probably one of my favorite scriptures on this topic. 4 and 5. When you get there, go ahead.
Who are Israelites?
So the question is, who are Israelites? Go ahead.
To whom pertaineth the adoption.
So what the Lord is saying is, I have adopted the Israelite. Like, and when we mean we adopted the Israelite, look, God is God and man is man. God is saying, I have taken a group of people and I am giving them the opportunity to become God. I'm giving them an opportunity to become my son. That's what he's saying when he said to them is the adoption. And what else?
And the glory.
He said, so to the Israelites is the adoption, the glory. That means you're going to be able to become God working through Israel. What else?
And the covenants.
And the covenants that went to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They went to Israel. Go ahead.
And the giving of the law.
And the giving of the law. Remember, we saw the lively oracles was given it to them in the church. Go ahead.
And the service of God.
And the service of like church. That's what the service of God is. Church. Church went to Israel, the Hebrew Israelite. Go ahead.
And the promises. Whose are the fathers.
All that stuff belongs to the Father. Go ahead.
And of whom, as concerning the flesh.
Concerning the race. Go ahead.
Christ came.
If you want to talk about something, Jesus also came through. If you want to talk about the race of it. We just saw the religion and the race right here in this chapter. It's both. That's what Hebrew Israelite is. It's both. Okay. It's a way of identifying who you are, not only physically, but spiritually, what you're supposed to be spiritually. Now, some may argue with that, but I don't really care because I'm reading the book and I'm getting this from the book. Let's go on to our next one. Let's go to John 4, John chapter 4. Let's see what the master has to say. John chapter 4. And we're going to pick this up at verse 22. And like I said, we are almost done here. But I just want to see a few other things. John 4 and 22. And let's go ahead and read that one verse.
You worship, you know not what. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews.
So notice what just took place here. He said salvation. Now remember, I was talking about the 12 sons, and I said, well, I'm gonna write this one down, Judah. Because what ended up happening is Judah ended up, long story short, the whole nation ended up taking the name Judah. And for short, they took on the name Jew. Okay, because you know how us, the Negro is. We like to give everybody a doggone nickname. You know, like how we don't call my son Samuel, we call him Sammy. Right, we don't call Micaiah, we call her Kaya. Like, that's all we do. Like, for example, my name is not really JD, it's Jediah. Right, so it was like, instead of calling him Judah, they just was like, oh yeah, we just call him Jew. So he says salvation is of the Jew. This is how you get your salvation. This is what Jesus is saying. But remember, what was given to the Jew came from Abraham. And we saw all the way back in the beginning of time that he dealt with Abraham and said, I'm going to be a God unto you. And then that promise went from Abraham over to Isaac and over to Jacob. Now, some people going to act like, well, so what you trying to say? Can't nobody else get salvation? That's ludicrous. The whole world has been offered salvation, and we're going to see that. Let's go to Matthew chapter 28. Not that we're trying to disinclude nobody else, but it started with somebody. And then it stems from that starting point. Like, from that starting point, it goes out to the rest of the world. Now, what the Gentile got is what we grew up doing, going to church every Sunday. That came from somebody else. When we saw what was given to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, go to Exodus 20. You'll see. The seventh day. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. That's what was given to the Hebrew Israelite. Some kind of way Sunday came on the scene. Oh, Emperor Constantine. Matthew chapter 28. Let's pick this up in verse 16. When you get there, let's take off.
16.
Okay.
Then the 11 disciples went away into Galilee, unto a mountain where Jesus had appointed them. And when they saw him, they worshiped him, but some doubted.
So it was how many disciples here? 11. Y'all know what happened to the other one?
Mm-hmm.
What happened to the other one? Yeah, he killed himself. That's the one who betrayed Jesus. All right, so that's why I was 11. They're going to pick up another one in a minute, though, because it was written that it needed to be 12. So they pick up another one in the book of Acts. But go ahead, keep going. Because really, it was more than 12 disciples with Jesus anyway. Mary was a disciple. Martha was a disciple. If you would have been there, you would have been following Jesus, you would have been a disciple too. But was you like one of the handpicked, I'm the original 12? That's the question. You see, and so that's where we get the 12 disciples from. But, you know, so now we able to take from the 70 at least, because we know at one point he sent them out by 70s. Let's grab up another one, make him a disciple, because these disciples carry out the services of God. Remember, it said in Hebrew, Romans 9, it said, who are Israelites? It said they had the services. So the disciples are the ones that's basically structuring what the church is. All right. So keep reading, because we're going to see him tell his disciples that. So he out with the 11 disciples. Go ahead.
And Jesus came and spake unto them, saying, all power is given unto me in heaven and in earth. Go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Ghost, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you. So he's
commissioning now the disciples to go out here and run with this church. That's what the book of Acts is about, the Acts of the Apostles. All right, so now we're going to go over to Acts. Let's go to Acts chapter 10. I don't know how much of that we're going to read. See how much time we got. Oh, yeah, we got plenty of time. We can be done with this at 3. I ain't did no 3 o'clock lesson in a long time. And we ain't started at 12 on the dot. Now I'm just messing with y'all. We're almost done. We'll go to Acts chapter 10, though. Acts chapter 10. And what Acts chapter 10 is, remember, we just saw that the Hebrew Israelites were told to go, the disciples of the Hebrew Israelites were told to go out here and preach this gospel from their master, Jesus. All right. So Acts chapter 10 is a story of that taking place. We're going to see it as an example with Peter. Peter was one of the ones that was there, who, as a matter of fact, was told, if you love me, feed my sheep. That's what he was told to do by the Lord. So let's pick it up in verse 1, and we're going to run through this some kind of way and skip around. Go ahead.
There was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band.
So this dude here is a Gentile, the Italians. Remember, we go all the way back. Let's see if we can pull this map out. Did we write Italian on here? No, we didn't, but we could have somewhere. You know, I guess they might have maybe fell under I don't know, somewhere between Gomar and Javan probably. Or no, here we go, Tyrus. Yeah, the Romans. That's the Italians. There we go. So he Gentile. That's who he is. Okay, because some people be trying to play this game like the Gentile can't get salvation. Why the Gentile can't get salvation? But Jesus said salvation is of the Jew. Like, why do I need to make the statement salvation is of the Jew if can't nobody else get it? Like that's, I mean, that I would just might as well say only the Jew is gonna be saved or something to that effect. But he told a Samaritan woman, salvation is of the Jew, as if to say, if you want it, go get what the Jew on. So now this Italian wants salvation. So there was a certain man of Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band. If this dude was a Jew, guess what it would have did? The same thing it did in Acts chapter 2. It would have called him a Jew. In Acts chapter 2, it said these men were devout Jews from every nation. Here it's telling you that he was an Italian. Go ahead, keep reading.
Devout man, and one that feared God with all his house, which gave much alms to the people and prayed to God always.
Go ahead.
He saw in a vision, evidently about the 9th hour of the day, an angel of God coming into him and saying unto him, Cornelius.
Yeah.
And when he looked on him, he was afraid and said, what is it, Lord? And he said unto him, thy prayers and thine alms are come up for a memorial before God. And now send men to Joppa and call for one Simon, whose surname is Peter.
So now this Gentile is praying to God, and God saying, look, we heard your stuff, so now I'm gonna send you over to somebody who holds the service of God. See, I'm not gonna sit here and try to teach you nothing so you can start you a church, and next thing you know, you talking about, oh, I got the universal church. See, it ain't gonna go down like that. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send you to where the church is so we can establish the rules to the game, so you'll know what you need to do. So he sends them out to Peter. All right. So let's jump. We're gonna jump all the way over to verse 23 because we're gonna see Peter and his interaction and how Peter tripping. I ain't gonna lie. Peter's like, what the heck? I don't know what, because what happened is, so in the same time that Cornelius had this going on, Peter is at home and he fasts and praying. Big ups to Peter. And then next thing you know, Peter gets a vision from heaven telling him, rise, Peter, kill and eat. This is like shrimp, catfish, pig, whatever, all type of meats and stuff in front of him. He say, no, not so, Lord. I ain't never ate like that. I'm not about to eat no pork. You tripping. And then he know it wasn't God anyway, it was an angel. He like, I don't care what angel come to me. I'm not doing it. So this happened 3 times. So now Peter, he like, man, what the heck? I'm tripping. You know, he like, man, I need to eat something because my head ain't right. You know, you trying to figure out what's going on. As soon as that happened, Cornelius pop up on the scene. And when Cornelius pop up, he like, yo, the angel sent me to you. All right. So now pick it up in verse 23.
Then called he them in and lodged them. And on the morrow, Peter went away with them, and certain brethren from Joppa accompanied him. And the morrow, after they entered in Caesarea, and Cornelius waited for them and had called together his kinsmen and near friends. And as Peter was coming in, Cornelius met him and fell down at his feet and worshipped him. But Peter took him up, saying, stand up. I myself also am a man.
I like that. So Peter got this Gentile bound down. So he say, man, hold on, man. Don't do like that. Stand up. I'm just a man just like you.
Yes, sir.
See, I like that, though, because sometimes we see these Hebrew Israelites with their sect of religion out there on the street. And what they be doing is they be trying to tell the Gentile, you know, well, you got to kiss my feet and all this dumb junk. I've seen that. But notice what Peter told him. He said, hey, look, man, I'm just a man just like you. Go ahead, keep reading.
27. And as he talked with him, he went in and found many that were come together. And he said unto them, you know how that it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come unto one of another nation. But God have shewed me that I should not call any man common or unclean.
Right. So the Lord had to show Peter, look, don't call no man common or unclean. Because before Israel just thought that this was all exclusive to Abraham and his seed. But the reality is we was here to teach the whole world. We was told that through Abraham's seed will all nations be blessed. And that's what our job was to do, to bless all nations. Let's go over here to let's go to Acts chapter 9. We're gonna go back a chapter. Let's pick them up at verse 4. I'm gonna show you Paul. I'm gonna show you what his job is. So Paul is as we're gonna find out, is an Israelite. But watch what his job is. Acts 9 and 4. Go ahead.
And he fell to the earth and heard a voice
So
saying,
Paul was on his way to Damascus. I'm sorry, I didn't tell y'all that part. And he was, you know what he was on his way to do? Kill some Hebrew Israelites. Because they were practicing the truth. All right, go ahead.
and he fell to the earth and heard a voice saying unto him, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? And he said, Who art thou, Lord? And the Lord said, I am Jesus, whom thou persecutest. It is hard for thee to kick against the pricks. And he, trembling and astonished, said, Lord, what wilt thou have me to do? And the Lord said unto him, Arise and go into the city, and it shall be told thee what thou must do.
Go ahead.
And the men which journeyed with him stood speechless, hearing a voice, but seeing no man. And Saul arose from the earth, and when his eyes were opened, he saw no man. But they led him by the hand and brought him into Damascus. And he was 3 days without sight, and neither did eat nor drink.
Go ahead.
And there was a certain disciple of Damascus named Ananias, and his name, and to him said the Lord in a vision, Ananias. And he said, Behold, I am here, Lord.
Go ahead.
And the Lord said unto him, Arise, go into the streets which is called Straight, and inquire in the house of Judas for one called Saul of Tarshish. For behold, he prayeth, and have seen in a vision a man named Ananias coming in and putting his hand on him that he might receive his sight.
Go ahead.
Then Ananias answered, Lord, I have heard by many of this man.
So he's like, man, I done heard of this dude, man, and he ain't that nice. Go ahead.
How much evil he have done to thy saints at Jerusalem. And here he have authority from the chief priest to bind all that call on thy name.
So he like, and on top of all that, like anybody saying Jesus, he got the permission to bind them up and throw them in jail or something. Go ahead.
But the Lord said unto him, Go thy way, for he is a chosen vessel unto me to bear my name before the Gentiles and kings and the children of Israel.
So notice here, he said, well, his job, though, is to go out. This dude here's job is to go out and to preach to the Gentile, all these nations and kings and the children of Israel. This is what Paul's job is to do. That is why when we begin to read the writings of the Bible, when we leave out of Acts, the first book we get to is the book of Romans, where he is writing to the Gentile, the Romans, and then the Corinthians. And then he writes to the people in Ephesus and Galatia and Thessalonica. You know, these are the places, Philippi. These are the places that Paul had went and visited and preached the gospel to them. And he gave them the law. Then he would come back and write them a letter, showing them Jesus Christ via letter. Have faith in Jesus, so on and so forth. This was Paul's job. Paul also preached to Israel. They didn't want to hear it, but he preached to them as well. Let's move on over here to Romans chapter 11 now. Romans chapter 11. As we on wrap up duty here. Romans chapter 11. I can't believe I managed to pull this off in 2 hours, 34 scriptures. You never did that. That's a record. We wasn't even rushing. See, all that Genesis just made it look like a long time, but really it wasn't. But Romans chapter 11, let's pick it up at 1. When you get there, go ahead.
I say then, have God cast away his people?
All right, so that's what we asking ourselves now. Is this still relevant? Are we still operating from Abraham to Isaac to Jacob? Has God cast away his people? Go ahead.
I say then, have God cast away his people? God forbid.
The answer is no. God has not cast away his people. Go ahead.
For I also am an Israelite.
So notice who this dude is and everybody else that's in the book. He said, I am an Israelite. What else?
Of the seed of Abraham.
I came from Abraham as well. Go ahead.
Of the tribe of Benjamin.
So he broke it all the way down to the science. I'm a Hebrew Israelite from Benjamin. Go ahead.
God have not cast away his people,
Uh-huh.
which he foreknew.
Right.
Wot ye not what the scripture saith of Elias,
Uh-huh.
how he maketh intercession to God against Israel?
So he said that's Elijah right there. He said, don't you know what the scriptures say to Elijah? That the Lord make intercessions to God against Israel, saying what? What did
Lord-
Elijah say?
Lord, they have killed thy prophets
Uh-huh.
and dig down thine altars, and I am left alone, and they seek my life.
Go ahead.
But what saith the answer of God unto him? I have reserved I have reserved to myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee of the image of Baal.
So what he's saying here is this. He's like, look, from the time of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to the time of Jesus, to us coming up out of the time of Jesus, the Lord has always kept some Hebrew Israelites not bowing down to the knee of Baal. He was going to preserve this thing, just like he preserved us when we was down in Egypt, just like he's preserving us while we here in America. He's going to make sure that, hey, it's going to always, the truth going to be here. So when you looking at history and you're looking at the slave quarters, you're like, well, where was the truth? It was somewhere. It was somewhere. Because he's saying he always reserved people who never bow down the knee to Baal. All right, let's jump down here to verse 11. When you get there, go ahead.
I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall?
But Israel, Israel, we took a little fall on it. We bumped our little heads because we didn't want to keep the covenants and the laws like the Lord told us. So now the question to the Roman is, to the Gentile, to the white man, the Caucasian, whatever, how you want to look at it. I say then, have they, the Hebrew, the Israelite, the Negro, the black man, have they stumbled that they should fall? God forbid. But rather through their fall, salvation has come to the Gentile for it to provoke them to jealousy. See, if Israel don't never fall and go off into captivity, we ain't even gonna try to give it to nobody else. Mm-hmm. You see, we would have stayed right there in our little lane and been like, man, we right here. Come see us. You know how we are. Come to the crib. You know what I'm saying? We ain't trying to get out there preaching the gospel. Just come on over. It's just like how we be over here. Come down to our church. We don't get out to nobody else's church. I mean, honestly, how many of y'all in the last 365 days have been to somebody else's church? Let me see your hand. I mean, serious. I don't mind. Yeah, some of us actually have. But look how many hands I don't see. Right, because we don't operate like that. We really don't, as a norm, go out and preach the gospel. We don't do it. Okay, same thing. So he's saying, look, we fail so that the rest of the world can have a taste of putting Israel all over the place. So we can get some of their religion. Because we are definitely a religious people. But go ahead, keep reading.
Now, if the fall of them be the riches of the world, and the diminishing of them the riches of the Gentiles, how much more their fullness?
Go ahead.
For I speak to you, Gentiles, inasmuch as I am the apostle of the Gentiles. I magnify my own.
He's like, I'm talking to you because I'm your preacher. Notice the church is coming from the Hebrew Israelite. He is out here teaching the Gentile now. And he said, I magnify my office, because he takes this serious. It is a job. I'm a Hebrew Israelite, and I'm working within our realm, within our church. Go ahead, keep going.
If by any means I may provoke to emulation them which are my flesh, and might save some of them.
Right, he's trying to make them mad, make them jealous, them that's my flesh, by going out there preaching to the Gentile. Go ahead.
For if the casting away of them be the reconciling of the world, what shall the receiving of them be but life from the dead?
Right, he's saying, well, if them falling off help reconcile the world, well, when they come back, when Israel come back, what you think that is? That's life back from the dead. That's what that. So look, think about how Paul rapping about us too. He said we dead men walking. That's what most of us are. When you go out there in the world and you go to the grocery store and you just stand there for a minute and just look around. Like, dang, these people dead. Then look at some grocery shops. Go look at some grocery carts. I'll always be looking at grocery carts like to see if you got pork. You know what I'm saying? Then don't let me be with somebody like my son or something. Cause I'll try to slick put it out there like, yeah, man, we don't got no pork in our grocery cart. You know what I'm saying? Just to put it out there to the world, like, cause you know, like I'm just saying, we dead as a nation. But go ahead, keep reading.
Verse 16.
Uh-huh.
For if the first fruit be holy, the lump is also holy. And if the root be holy, so are the branches.
Right. So he's saying, look, if we can get the first fruit to be holy, then the rest of the lump is holy. And he's saying then he's saying if the root be holy, then the branches are gonna be holy. If the root is disgusting, the branches are gonna be disgusting. So you best to know that Israel better be preserved. Otherwise, Romans, you ain't gonna get nothing out the deal. Go ahead, keep reading.
And if some of the branches be broken off,
Mhm.
and thou, being a wild olive tree, were grafted in among
He
them.
say, so now if some of the branches done got broken off, and he called the Gentile a wild olive tree. He like, bro, you ain't even on this tree. He like, you some wild tree, and you getting grafted onto here. Go ahead, keep reading.
And with them partakers of the root and fatness of the olive tree.
He didn't notice what he's saying, though. He's saying that and if some of the branches be broken off, some of Israel didn't act right, and thou, being a wild olive tree, were grafted in among them, and with them partakers of the root and the fatness of the olive tree. He's saying, like, look, you could be partakers of what Israel got and its fatness. You're not gonna be a part of that initial tree, but we grafting you in. Go ahead, keep reading.
Boast not against the branches.
He said, so then don't boast against Israel. Like, if anything, help them, but don't boast against them. We're talking to the Romans here. Go ahead.
But if thou boast, thou bearest not the root, but the root tree.
Mm-hmm.
Root D, excuse me. Thou wilt say then, the branches were broken off, that I might be grafted in. Well, because of unbelief, they were broken off, and thou standest by faith. Be not high-minded, but fear. For if God spare not the natural branches, take heed, lest he also spare not thee.
So what he's saying is to the Gentile, look, if God didn't spare the you be careful how you function. God didn't spare the natural branches. What make you think he gonna spare you if you get in here and mess this up? All right. What verse are we at? Let's skip down to verse 25. Go ahead.
For I would not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery, lest ye should be wise in your own conceits, that blindness in part is happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. And so all Israel shall be saved.
So he's saying all Israel gonna be saved. Now, I don't want you to think that every black boy and girl in America is gonna be saved. He's saying the nation is gonna be saved. Because we're going to catch hell, go through hell. As a matter of fact, the hell of all hell is called the time of Jacob's trouble. So it's not going to be easy or better for us. But again, this nation will be saved. He said blindness in part has happened to Israel until the time of the Gentile be fulfilled. See, the Gentile runs the world now. That's how I know that the Asian is a Gentile. Because you know that last familiar year book y'all got? Y'all know they say that the Asian is Shem, right? That's what they put in there. It's wrong, though. It's a historical book that happens to be wrong. They've been saying that. They've been trying to put, the blacks is Ham, the European or the Caucasian is the Gentile, and the Asians is Shemitic. That's what they be on. But that's wrong. I just want to put that out there. He said, well, anyway, blindness is in part happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentile be come in. And so all Israel shall be saved. As it is written. What's written, brothers?
There shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob.
Right. Jesus is that deliverer who's going to come out of Zion. And he's going to turn away Jerusalem from its ungodliness, Jacob from its ungodliness, Israel from its ungodliness. That's when all Israel shall be saved. Keep going.
For this is my covenant unto them, when I shall take away their sin.
Notice again, he talking about covenants. He made that covenant with Abraham. When I'm going to take away their sin. Go ahead.
As concerning the gospel, they are enemies for your sakes. But as touching the election, they are beloved for the Father's sake.
He said, as concerning the gospel, they ain't feeling you. But then he said, but at the same time, he's talking to the Romans about Israel. He said, concerning the gospel, they ain't really feeling you. They your enemies for your sake. But it's touching the election, they beloved of the Father. So he's saying, don't get it twisted. The Israel, this is the apple of the Lord's eye. This is chosen people. You coming in, you getting it, but I don't want you to get beside yourself. And notice who he talking to. talking to the Romans. These are the same people that end up starting the doggone Catholic Church. Obviously, somewhere, I don't know if it was a dream, a word from the Lord or something, but somewhere along the line, he knew they was going to screw it up, the Romans. And his job, again, is to teach the Gentile. So he's giving them fair warning. Trust me, he warning the Roman Catholic Church because his job is to preach the Gentile. The Roman Catholic Church think they're going to step up and be the new church. Then it's his job to tell them what you own is tripping. You boasting yourself against the branches. You think he gonna jam up the branches? He definitely gonna jam you up, and he is to the Catholic Church. But where we at, bro?
29.
Go ahead, verse 29.
For the gifts and calling of God are without repentance. For as ye in times past have not believed God, yet have now obtained mercy through their unbelief, even so have these also now not believed, that through your mercy they also may obtain mercy. For God have concluded, them all in unbelief, that he might have mercy upon all.
All right, that's good. Let's go to Philippians chapter 3. That's to the right a little bit. Philippians chapter 3. Philippians chapter 3. And it's not that long. I'm gonna read this too, though. See, I get to the end of the lesson, and what happens is I don't really be knowing how to cut it when I get to the end. So I just say, forget about it. I just read it all. Maybe I cut it in the midst of class. But we're going to read this, though. Philippians chapter 3, and we're going to pick it up at verse 1. When you get there, go ahead.
Finally, my brethren, rejoice in the Lord. To write the same things to you, to me indeed is not grievous, but for you it is safe.
Keep going.
Beware of dogs, beware of evil workers, beware of the concision. For we are the circumcision.
Okay, now so he's saying we are the circumcision. So like the circumcision again, remember early in the lesson today, we saw that was your covenant that he gave to the children of Israel. When Paul writes, one of the things he does is identify the children of Israel with that covenant, that circumcision, that covenant they made. Okay, go ahead.
For we are the circumcision, which worship God in the spirit and rejoice in Christ Jesus and have no confidence in the flesh. Though I might also have confidence in the flesh.
So he's saying like, well, what he really telling them is, well, we the circumcision. You know, talking to the Gentiles. He said, which worship God in spirit and rejoice in Christ Jesus and have no confidence in the flesh. So he's talking to the Philippians and he like, but you know, we ain't gonna put no confidence in the flesh, though I might also have confidence in the flesh. So Paul's saying, but me, it's just like if I'm in a room full of Gentiles and I'm preaching to the Gentile, I'm like, look, we the circumcision spiritually, y'all. We ain't even gonna put confidence in the flesh. The flesh ain't gonna save us. We ain't gonna put confidence in the flesh. He said, but if we gotta have confidence in the flesh, watch what he say. Go ahead.
If any other man thinketh that he have whereof he might trust in the flesh, I more.
He's saying, well, if somebody think that we can have confidence in the flesh, I feel my flesh more. Go ahead.
Circumcised the 8th day.
Be like, I got circumcised the 8th day. Go ahead.
Of the stock of Israel. Of the tribe of Benjamin.
That's right.
And Hebrew of the Hebrews. As touching the law of Pharisees.
Keep going.
Concerning zeal, persecuting the church. Touching the righteousness which is in the law blameless. But what things were gained to me, those I counted loss for Christ. Yea, doubtless, and I count all things but loss for the excellency of the knowledge of Christ Jesus, my Lord, for whom I have suffered.
That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. So I just wanted to show you how Paul, and you can read the rest of this on your own, but how Paul felt about who he was and what he was. He like concerning, you know, it's concerning the flesh. Look, I'm a Hebrew of Hebrews. But yet still you saw that through the blessing of the church, he was out there persecuting the true church of God. Let's go over here to James chapter 1 now. James chapter 1. James chapter 1. And we're going to read verse 26 and 27. James 1, verse 26 and 27. And when you get there, go ahead and read.
If any man among you seem to be religious and bridleth not his tongue, but deceiveth his own heart, this man's religion is vain.
So what we're getting at with that is, look, so now we begin to understand that what Hebrew Israelite is not just a race, but it's both race and religion. But if you can't act right, it's vanity. It means nothing. Your circumcision don't profit nothing, whether you are flesh or whether you are a spiritual Israelite. It doesn't matter if you can't keep yourself in check. So he says here, but if any man among you seem to be religious and hold or bridleth not his tongue, but deceiveth his own heart, this man's religion is vain. Verse 27.
Pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this.
So now he gonna tell you what pure religion is. So to my Hebrew Israelites out here, this is what you are supposed to be, what you're supposed to be on. This is what the expectation is for you. Go ahead. What is it?
To visit the fatherless.
Right. So he started telling you about some religious ceremony. He said for you to go out here and visit the fatherless. What else?
And widows in their affliction, and to keep himself unspotted from the world.
Now that's true religion, that you're gonna keep yourself unspotted from the world, that you're gonna take yourself out of this world system. Like they say, you're gonna get yourself up out of Babylon. You're gonna serve your God. Let's finish this up in John chapter 4. John chapter 4. You can read that Acts 26 on your own. That's Paul. And Paul gonna break down in that particular Acts chapter 26, like he said concerning this sect. Because they keep talking about us Hebrews, what we on. So you look at that Acts chapter 26, you'll see what he was on. But you can look at that on your own time. I think he talked to King Agrippa. Agrippa say, man, that Acts chapter 26, man, that could be like a one-man play or something. Like just the way the story roll out. You know what I'm saying? It's like Agrippa, like Paul just started running it down to him. And by the time it's all said and done, Agrippa like, dude, bro, you almost convinced me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, just telling them about it. And that was just a one showing. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Agrippa was like, man, come back next week. You know what I'm saying? You can tell me some more. You know, but it's a good, that Acts 26, though, it's an excellent read. You get in and do your homework. You know, JD be giving out homework. So you go in there and do your homework. But let's go to John 4, and we're going to pick it back up at verse 22, and we're going to finish it up here. John 4 and verse 22. And when you get there, go ahead.
You worship, you know not what. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews.
Go ahead.
But the hour cometh, and now is, when the true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For the Father seeketh such to worship him.
Go ahead.
God is a spirit.
Go ahead.
And they that worship
him.
So
if you're going to worship God, he's a spirit. And if you're going, that's what religion is about. Worship, your service toward God. So he said, if you're going to worship him, go ahead.
God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth.
So, brothers and sisters, I hope we got some understanding today. Hebrew Israelite, race, or religion. I hope we comprehend and gather that it was both. Praise the Lord in Jesus' name. Praise the Lord. Yeah. So before we get into our regular announcements, has anybody heard from man? Well, I know the sister's name, and I can't think of the sister that's pregnant. She's supposed to be having Antoinette. I'm sorry. Anybody heard from Sister Antoinette? She had a baby. Is everything good? All right, very good. So make sure y'all keep her in prayer. Yeah, she was pregnant. She was here maybe a week before last. Her and her husband. They and you know what? I've been meaning to, because I have his phone number, so I've been meaning to text him or something just to holler at him, tell him congratulations. But you know, I've been forgetting. I'm gonna have to do better. I've been trying to write reminders, but they don't work. But make sure you keep him and his wife in prayer. Make sure you keep Brother Ira, Sister Lisa in prayer. Sister Lisa, she been taking care of her mom. Brother Ira, you know, his foot been kind of messed up, so he did come past couple of weeks. Go ahead, sis. All right, so you know, memo that. Make sure you're praying for them. You know, keep my road team in prayer. They got one mirror on the van today. Somebody broke the mirror off. So I got another one coming, but like I say, it's one side mirror, so keep them in prayer because it could be a little rough out there when you driving, and so keep my road team on prayer. I think we got Marcus out there, and brother Paul, and brother Jacob, and brother Chris. Brother Chris is teaching, yeah. So that's my role unit today. So make sure y'all pray for them. Also, don't forget the feast. I know I keep reminding you, but I'm gonna do that until we get here. We're gonna probably have. I think we're trying to work on getting New York down, get them a shuttle. So again, I'm just like I said, I'm gonna keep reminding you to get here. But the way we're gonna do it is we're gonna make sure we got enough for ourselves and enough for some extra people. Brothers and sisters who don't know, it is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So that means that we aren't making any breads that rise. So if you don't know what that means, brothers and sisters who are cooking, you can see Sister Raquel, you can see Sister Mildred, uh, Sister Shanita, where's she at? Yeah, that's really what I'm looking for. I'm trying to just make sure that Sister Reese, she should know. She's been around. There goes Sister Shanita right there. Like I'm really just saying I'm trying to pull out some people that's been around that should definitely know. Cause I will throw your banana pudding away if it come up here with if it come up here risen or something. You know what I mean? Like I will for real. And you're gonna be mad, and I'm gonna be like, I'm sorry. You brought your broccoli casserole and this stuff in here is all. I mean, I really will just like throw the whole thing away. So I'm just being fair to you now to tell you if you don't know how to handle it, talk to some of these elder sisters that's been around here. They'll tell you what to and what not to put in your foods. But it's the Feast on Unleavened Bread. It's at the very beginning of April. I think it falls on a Sunday. So, you got a back-to-back Sabbath you need to consider. So you need to make sure you prepping up coming toward that whole week. Don't forget that you're supposed to be off. Typically, we already off that Sunday and that Saturday. But if you're not, you need to be off. But again, I'll keep announcing that just to make sure that, it's in my interest that I keep announcing it because I'm ready to come up here and party. I'm just trying to make sure that we got the more the merrier. But other than that, we also got our birthdays for the week. Brother Marcus had a birthday yesterday, and Brother Marlo will turn